Hello. It's Thirsty Thursday. It's not quite a Melly After Dark right now, but it is Thirsty Thursday. Hello. Welcome. I am back. I hope you guys had a great week or are having a great week. It's not quite over yet. We're going to do something a little different tonight. We're going to get into something different. What is up? Hi, Jules. I was gonna do a Melly After Dark to combine what I wanted to do today, but we're gonna keep them separate because they're very different. Hey Weddle, hey Josiah, hey Antonio, and hello Jules. Okay, so this is gonna be a little different. We'll see how we like it. I don't know how comfortable. I mean, I read to you guys all the time as we read court documents, but I'm actually reading a book to you guys tonight. It's the Idaho Four book. So I want to get through it. I have not read it. I literally just got it yesterday in the mail. It's very controversial. There is a lot going on. And I just have to say, if you're not familiar with the Bryan Kohbergers case, get familiar. It is wild. And I just want to say I haven't read anything, but I have heard some stuff regarding the book. And I feel like I'm starting to question a lot of things. I think that I'm starting to question, is Bryan Kohbergers the only one who committed this crime? I've said that before on previous lives, that I always thought there was another person. And I don't know. I continue to think that. So I don't think this case is what we were all made to think. And I know it's probably, the book is a distraction, et cetera, et cetera. This book is wild from what I hear. Jules, I always wanted to read it too. And it literally just came out. And so there's small chapters. So we're just going to get through some of it. I'm going to do different parts. This is part one. And hello, welcome to everyone. If you are new here, hello, I am Melly. I just started rambling off. We cover all things true crime. And then we like to have fun on the Melly After Dark. So welcome if you're a new viewer, new subscriber. We have been getting a lot of those lately, and I appreciate it. The Idaho Four book is written by James Patterson. So he writes in general horror books and mysteries and those kinds of books. I actually really like him as an author. I am a big reader. And so when I knew he was involved with this, I was like, this is about to be crazy. I have not watched the new documentary, so I need to get on that. If you guys have already watched it, let me know. This is the Idaho Four book by James Patterson and Vicky Ward. It's big, but you already know. We get through things quick here. I'm a fast reader. I'm really excited to read this. I've heard really differing opinions about it. And yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, it's hot as hell here too. Yo, it's like 102 degrees here. I'm like, excuse me. It is Thirsty Thursday, so cheers. Yeah, it's going to be a good book. It's going to be good. So I'm just going to read through it. If we like it, we'll like it. If it gets boring, let's communicate. Oh, it's not humid out here. It's just super hot in California. I can't handle it anymore. I'm not like a summer girl. I'm not a summer girl. I like the cold because I'm cold. I'm just kidding. Okay. So like I said, I just got this yesterday. I'm going to read the author's note. So it says, and you know what? There's a lot of interviews in this. It's a lot of craziness in this book. I don't know. I don't want to make any opinions or assumptions on the case again. My final opinion until after I read this. I know this isn't facts. I'm sure, well, it is facts, but this isn't, I'm not going by this for the outcome of the case, but I did always think something was shifty with the Idaho Four case. And I've said that many times before. Okay, so the author's note says, and let me know if you guys can hear everything. Okay, let me fix my mic. It says, the book reads like fiction, but none of it is made up. Every detail in these pages has been meticulously sourced through interviews or has been factually documented. Bryan Kohbergers has been charged with murdering Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves, who became known as the Idaho Four on November 13th, 2022. His criminal trial is set to begin in August of 2025. Of course, he is innocent until proven guilty. This is just the author's note, and we know, hello, we got no trial. He took a plea deal, and I'm very suspicious of that plea deal. That's just my opinion. The book does not offer a view of what the verdict will be. Rather, it is a story of 4 tragic murders and the impact of the crimes on a small American town. This book could not have been written without the help and support of hundreds of people, including the 320 individually interviewed, some many times, by Vicky Ward. We'd like to especially thank the victims' friends and family for giving us much precious time, hospitality, and insight. The Chapin family and Hunter Johnson for sharing about Ethan. The Goncalves family for sharing about Kaylee, Ben Mogen and 𝐁𝐞𝐜𝐨𝐬𝐞, aka 𝐷eedle, for sharing about Maddie, and the Atlant family, Karen, Matt, and Emily, Xana's best friends, for sharing so much about Xana. This is wild. I didn't know they interviewed these people in this book. Moscow, Idaho Police Chief James Fry, now retired, generously gave his time and shared insights on dealing with the most horrific crime of his career amid worldwide media scrutiny. Importantly, he did this without discussion of any of the specifics of this case and investigation per the gag order put in place by a local judge. And we know there was a hearing about that today, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. The supporting details are drawn from public documents, including court records, and from elsewhere. Thanks also to Kathy and Moscow coroner and retired police officers Paul Kwiatkowski and Brandon Jordan. So I apologize if I say anything wrong incorrectly, the names, etc. Thank you to those University of Idaho Vandals, Ava Wood, Josie, Linda, Emma, David, Alejandro, etc., 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 and the guys at the Sigma Chi fraternity, especially Gus. Above all, for introductions to Moscow, Idaho residents, culture, thanks to the psychologist Dr. Rand Walker. Without him, none of this would have been possible. Much appreciation to those who opened the doors to the city of Moscow. For invaluable insight into Pullman, Washington perspective, thank you to the Washington State University Police Chief Gary Jenkins, former Pullman Mayor Glenn Johnson, radio host Evan Ellis, he names a bunch of people. For a sense of Kohbergers' life in the Poconos, thanks to Mark and Jack, etc., etc., and for taking us into the online community of the University of Idaho Case Discussion Facebook group page, thanks to Christine, Cameron, and Alina Smith. Here's a story of the Idaho Four, their young lives cut short by unspeakable violence. It is an exploration of complex criminal investigation and a timeless portrait of the worst and the best in us. Prologue. Ooh, this is going to be wild. We're about to get so much from this book. Chapter 1, �W𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲-𝐕𝐞𝐫, Washington, November 13th, 2022. Chief, we've had a bad situation. James Fry, the God-fearing chief of Moscow, Idaho, Police Department picks up the call from Captain Tyson Barrett, informing him of a mass homicide, 4 murders at 1122 King Road. Barron has the inside track. Ava and Emily, 2 of the kids in the group sitting outside the rental house, work at the football stadium. The 𝐤𝐐𝐫𝐬𝐞 is under Barrett's purview, so he knows them well. It's Sunday, and Fry is about an hour into the 4-hour drive back from an overnight visit with a friend in �W𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲, Washington, 150 miles east of Seattle. Whatever has happened, whoever the victims are, it already feels too close for comfort. In the passenger seat, listening, is Julie Fry, the chief's whip-smart wife of 30 years, who also happens to be the newly elected Latah County clerk. Chief Fry will later say he should have just let Julie drive, but now it's all he can do to observe what Barrett tells him. 4 young people, likely UI students, stabbed in their bedrooms. In their beds, in a residence that's part of a large cluster of student housing right on the campus line, and no one heard a thing? Fry's put in 30 years on the force. The common assumption about a small-town police chief is that they have no experience with murder, but this is not Fry's first brush with homicide on campus. In 2007, when he was a sergeant, he worked on 3 homicides in just 1 year. One involved a University of Idaho student, David Boss, who was shot by a former classmate. In 2011, as a lieutenant, Fry oversaw the investigation of another university tragedy. That summer, psychology professor Ernesto Bustamante, who had a history of mental illness, fatally shot Kathy Benoit, a 21-year-old graduate student he previously dated, outside her home, then later turned the gun on himself. I'm hooked already. I didn't even know about these crimes. We're definitely going to look into those after too. Even so, Fry already knows this one is different. He knows this is going to test the department in an unprecedented way. He also knows this is too big for Moscow to handle without help. In a rural area like this, there's a general view that it's all hands on deck. He's going to need support from the state, probably the FBI. But first things first. It's not his job to run point at the scene of the crime. When he was a detective, which was not so long ago, he headed up investigations, but now he's chief, and the chiefs who get in the way of their teams can literally screw things up. His role today is to stay in close touch with his officers and provide whatever support is needed. Part of leading, Fry believes, is trusting and delegating. But Fry knows that when adrenaline is running high, anyone can forget things. So he rattles off a punch list to Tyson Barrett, realizing from experience that his captain is out in front of him. Have you reached Bill? He asked, referring to the veteran county prosecutor, Bill Thompson, who has never lost a case. In their parallel careers, the chief and the prosecutor have worked at every crime scene together. They met every single day at 8 a.m. for belief in Thompson. Fry's belief in Thompson, the only prosecutor in Idaho who has ever won a murder conviction, and the absence of a dead body is unwavering. And I just have to say, that is one of my concerns as I proceed in this chapter. Prologue. This is the prologue. The absence of a dead body. In this case, I've been thinking a lot about this and deep diving more after the whole plea deal. And I'm wondering, where is the weapon? Like, how is he being charged for the crime when not that much of his evidence was on the sheath? Like, I'm really questioning a lot in this case as of recent. I'm going to remove the front cover because it's getting in the way. But you guys know what book it is. On his way, Barrett says, the two forensics officer, Lawrence Mowry and Andrew Fox, are Fry's appointments. State, a scene as big as this needs help from the Idaho State Police forensics team based in Lewiston, about 30 miles of Moscow. On their way, who have you got there? Barrett tells him that Mitch Nunes was the first officer on the scene. And at this, Fry blanches. My heart broke, he said later. His 37-man department runs like a family. 22-year-old Nunez is like a son to Fry, a baby. He knows that his youngest officer will never be able to erase from his mind the horrific crime scene that he's just witnessed, that he will be forever altered, and Fry will need to find Nunez and his wife the resources to help cope with this trauma. Mental health is not something that was discussed when Fry was a rookie, and he believes that was a mistake. PTSD, according to Fry's longtime ride-along partner and best friend, Paul, lingers as he sorts through memories that won't dim. Fry is going to take care of his young officers and their families, make sure they feel supported. Speaking of ... Has the university been notified? Affirmative. Where's Barrett Payne? 2 months prior, Fry promoted Brett Payne, a 32-year-old cop and military veteran whom he hired in 2020, to detective corporal and a new position in the department that Fry created for a reason. Ordinarily, detectives are the higher rank of sergeant, but Fry had been faced with a specific set of challenges. He had to run a small department at a time when applications for jobs in law enforcement were dwindling. This was shortly after an officer in Minnesota had been convicted in the death of George Floyd. We're familiar with that case. The chief decided to free up some of the sergeants to learn the administrative part of police work, how to actually run a department, pay bills, budget, and so forth. Which means today, Fry realizes Payne will be the one to lead this investigation, organize the department into teams. Talk about diving into the deep end. Tyson responds that yes, Payne is on his way to the crime scene. He'll get there around 4 p.m., which will be ahead of Fry. He presses hard on the gas and dials a number. Rand, he says into the phone to Dr. Rand Walker, a local therapist who has counseled his officers before. I need you to be on standby. The rest of the drive is a blur of staccato calls. Chief Gary Jenkins, the head of Washington State University Police over in Pullman and former chief of the Pullman PD, phones. Do you need your backup from us? Jenkins asks. The two departments often tag team. Moscow's last convicted murderer, John Lee, had in fact been caught on the run by the officers in Pullman. But Fry is cautious. In 2015, they knew who the murderer was, but this time they have no idea. Fry is aware of the importance of locking down an investigation, keeping information on a need-to-know basis to stop leaks that could jeopardize it. He and Bill Thompson are in completely sync on this. Thompson never speaks to anyone about an investigation until he gets to sentencing. And even then, he keeps it short. And there are too many unanswered questions right now. It's not safe or prudent for Fry to involve another team. Not yet, Fry tells Jenkins. I'll keep you posted. Barretts shared with Fry that a knife sheath was found in one of the rooms. It's imperative this doesn't get out. Somewhere, there's a maniacal murderer on the loose who is almost certainly watching their every move. And in God's name, who could have done this? Fry wonders. And again, he presses harder on the gas. One good thing about being police chief is that no one is likely going to arrest him for speeding. Hello. Chapter 2, 1 hour later. Hi, Kaylee, good to see you, love. This is 1 hour later, chapter 2. The notification about death are the thing Chief Fry dreads the most in his job. It takes seconds to give or receive the news, yet the needlessly lost lives haunt his dreams. He can recall each and every one as he hustles towards Moscow. Take January 22nd, 2013, nearly a decade ago. He's been a lieutenant. A couple had shown up at the station wondering anxiously where their son was. A Latah County Sheriff's deputy had found a body the next day and called it in. The corpse had been on the ground for 2 days. It looked like the kid, a college kid named Joseph 𝐻𝐿𝐻, had frozen to death. He had been intoxicated. The department spread out trying to piece together what had happened, and Fry became the point person for the kids' parents. Notifying parents of the loss of their children is something you never get better at. And tragically, students' deaths are not that unusual. There's one practically every semester. Typically, it's the result of a car accident that occurs during the long drives most of the kids take to cross the state in treacherous conditions in winter. One year, Fry taught a class up at the university, and right before Thanksgiving break, he told his students, remember, drive extra slow. Your parents don't care what time you get there. They just want you there. Fry may be a cop, but he's also a husband and the father of 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son. I understand what it's like as a parent to drop a child off, he'll say. He knows that parents expect their kids to be safe in college, and he also knows that sometimes they aren't. The tragedy with young Joseph 𝐻𝐻𝐻 was a double whammy for Fry because it seemed like no one in the community helped the kid out by notifying law enforcement that he was in trouble on the night he ended up dying. His body was found 2 miles from town. 2 miles. Fry knew that someone must have spotted the drunk kid while he was walking. Sure enough, when all the details about 𝐻𝐻𝐻's final night were in, and when Fry put together a map for Joseph's mom, Michelle, it emerged that Joseph walked a circuitous 8 miles before lying down to rest one last time. Various people in the town did see the kid. They could have helped him by calling the MPD when he stumbled into their backyards, or in a few cases into their homes. Instead, they just watched him or sent him on his way. One lady later said, I just didn't want him to get in trouble. Joseph would have been in trouble. He would have been locked up and most likely given a criminal citation, but nothing more. Fry tells everyone he works with that the key to serving the community is respect, respect, respect. You ever see the movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze? He'll ask people. If they haven't, he tells them to watch it. The movie's message is his message, the one he instills into his officers. Quote unquote, be nice, be nice, be nice. And until it's time not to be nice, be nice. If you treat people with respect, even when you arrest them, they'll thank you. But in 2013, the town's residents seemed unaware of the chief's message of police compassion. The tragic story of Joseph 𝐻𝐻𝐻 that he put together went something like this. On January 20th at 2 a.m., a Moscow woman hears a noise downstairs. She goes to take a look. Is it an animal? It's a human. A drunk human. An 18-year-old man, clearly disoriented, smelling of alcohol, his blonde hair disheveled, is stumbling around in her basement. She doesn't know how he got in. He's lost. Safe, safe, he mumbles to her. It's clear he wants to stay and sleep it off. But she asks him to leave. He'll figure it out. No need to call the police. It's black outside. Snow drifts piled high, but students often wander drunk, a nuisance with their noise and their parties. Joseph shuffles off down Highland Drive. 3 a.m. Bang, bang. He's knocking on another door. This one on Mountain View Road. The owner looks through the window. Go home, he says to the kid. Again, there's no call to the police. The townsfolk think they're protecting him. It's a mistake. 4 a.m. Bang, bang. A third homeowner looks out the window, shrugs, and goes back to bed. Joseph wanders away. He's trying to get back to his dorm, but he has no idea where he's headed. Somehow, he ends up near Paradise Creek, 2 miles north of the city. Joseph trips and falls. He hits the frozen creek. His body sinks like a dead weight through ice into the frigid water. He fights. He climbs out. He crawls under a nearby bridge and rests. His body is discovered by police 2 days later. It emerges that Joseph had drinking too much at a Saturday night party given by the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity. I'm pausing there. Who does this sound like? Riley Strain? Like, hello, we all know about the Riley Strain case. I'm shook. I didn't even know about this until this book. Fry, okay, I'm going to continue. Fry doesn't like to toot his own horn, but he reckons that since he became the chief in 2016, attitudes in towns have changed a lot about things, including over-the-top college drinking. He isn't stupid enough to think you can stop college kids from drinking, but he believes you can take steps to keep it in check. You can, for example, go as he does, to Rosers, look at the keg list and figure out where each keg is. If a keg is somewhere it isn't supposed to be, if, say, with a group of underage kids, you take it away nicely, but that's what you do. One time, Fry and the guys took 42 cases of Keystone Light away from the fraternity party because they saw a 19-year-old pushing the cart. So yes, you've got to teach them that the law is the law. If Fry and his ride-along partner, Captain Paul, had been called to deal with drunk Joseph, sure, they might have locked him up, but he'd still have his life ahead of him. Fry is upset that people in Moscow don't get that. What else can we do? He asked Paul one time. Keep going, his friend and colleague said. Don't give up. The two guys had looked at the framed quotations on Fry's wall. The chief knows them by heart, but he still reads them every day. The first is from Philippians 4:7, and the peace of God which passeth all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds. The second is from Theodore Roosevelt's speech on citizenship. In April 1910, after finishing his second term as U.S. president, Roosevelt delivered the Man in the Arena speech in Paris. He was on his way to Oslo, Norway, to officially accept the Nobel Peace Prize, which he had been awarded in 1906, for his efforts to end the Russo-Japanese War. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short and again, and who the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daringly greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Fry thinks about those words. Who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So as the chief reaches the city's outskirts, he takes a deep breath. He knows that with this startlingly awful and strange case, now more than ever, he needs to get a critical message through. The Moscow police on his watch are to be trusted, not feared. Hey, Junior. Chapter 3, 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho. 2 hours earlier. Officer Nunez radios a police station and reaches Sergeant Shane Gunderson, who's been taking advantage of his quiet Sunday morning shift to plan a hiking trip to Mount Bora on the other side of the state. This is serious, Nunez tells him. Gunderson snaps out of his boredom, leaps into his car, and heads for King Road. As he rides, he phones Tyson Barrett, his boss. The commander of the campus police is on call that day. Barrett says he's already sent patrol officers Smith and Warner to join Nunez, who's taping off the area around the house. Barrett knows what to do, and not just because he is an experienced cop. He was a sergeant assigned to Moscow's previous famous homicide, the case of John Lee, a mentally ill man who went on a shooting spree in January of 2015, killing 3 people, including his adoptive mother. But Barrett has another advantage here. He's a vandal. The name of the school's athletic team, a nickname that comes from long ago. U of I basketball team said to have vandalized its opponents. He knows the school, the students, the faculty, the administration, the culture. He's been attached to the university on and off for years. He worked it years ago as a sergeant. His daughter is a student. When Barrett arrives, he recognizes Ava Wood, a neighbor who rushed out with blankets for the group of students sitting in front of the house at 1122 King Road. "Do you know the people inside, Ava?" Barrett asks. She nods, and Barrett looks at her eyes, filled with sympathy. And then he turns to the front door. All those years of training and experience kick in. He runs through his checklist. 1. Clear the residence and run tape around the perimeter. 2. Call for medical assistance if needed. There is no need. 3. Secure the scene. Check. Nunez has put up the tape. Barrett assigns 1 cop to watch the front of the house and another the back. 4. Call the detectives who will lead the investigation. There will be 5 detectives: John Lawrence, who is about to retire, Danny Vargas, Brett Payne, Detective Corporal, and forensic detectives Lawrence and Maury and Andrew Fox. Barrett knows it's important to call only these cops who will play essential roles. With each body comes the risk of contaminating evidence. Number 5, notify the police chief. Number 6, notify the county prosecutor, Bill Thompson. 7, notify the other Moscow PD captains, Anthony DeLinger and Roger Lanier. 8, call the sergeant running the Idaho State Police detectives. Moscow is going to need the state's police forensics team at a bare minimum. This is too big for the MPD to handle alone. State has a forensics lab. Moscow does not. 9, call the university's president, provost, and dean of students. 10, call the coroner, but not until all the evidence is collected. Someone might accidentally move something and contaminate the scene. 11, notify the public if there is a threat. Barrett knows, not just from his years of experience, but from common sense, that the probability of some random stranger knifing 4 people to death in their beds is almost nil. There's a connection somewhere between whoever did this and at least one of the victims. There always is. That's what the police are going to have to find. The patrol officers correctly begin with the people in the front of them. Why is this young student, Hunter Johnson, holding a kitchen knife? What happened here? Hunter sits with the patrol officers and tells them what happened as best as he knows. They let him go. Sirens start to wail. But the first emergency vehicle that arrives is unnecessary. It's the volunteer ambulance, the medical responders to the 911 call. It stays a couple of minutes, then at the cop's request leaves. It's too late for anyone to need medical attention. Part 1, The Innocence. Chapter 1, Moscow, Idaho, August 18th, 2019. It's big day at the University of Idaho. Yes, I do, Callie Dime. I do think he was Papa Roger, 100%. Crazy that Moscow is also in the, yeah, I'm shook. It's big day at the University of Idaho. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen chose the University of Idaho precisely because of its strong Greek life. Nearly 1/4 of UI students take part. The two look alike, blonde. Maddie's is natural, Kaylee's is dyed. Best friends, both freshmen, take their seats in the auditorium. They glance nervously at the throng of women packed around them, like canned sardines all clutching envelopes. Inside each is the name of the sorority of the student has gotten into. Kaylee's and Maddie's top choice is Alpha Phi. Is that how you say it, Phi or Phi? Or A Phi, as it's known. A Phi. As one of its members described their sorority, it's a place for, quote unquote, for blondes, for homecoming queens, for popular girl leaders, girls who like to party and get ready to party. Last night, to help the newcomers make up their minds, the sororities invited the women to so-called preference ceremonies at their top choice. At AFE, one of the sisters told a sad but moving story. Her boyfriend, a football star, had tragically lost his battle with cancer, and the support of the house was what has got her through. Both girls know that Greek life isn't just about parties. The friendships and networks and bonds formed in each house are an important factor in most of the students' social and later professional lives. Maddie wants a career in marketing, and Kaylee in IT. Kaylee and Maddie drove to campus together and spent the past few days rushing together, and the past 6 years doing everything together. Maddie has been entering Kaylee's house without knocking, just like she's part of Kaylee's noisy, happy, hectic, vast family since they were both 12 years old. Maddie is more of a girly girl than Kaylee, who used to be a bit of a tomboy. Kaylee is more of an extrovert than Maddie, and maybe more of a hustler. She's had to be to get what she wants, given the size of the Goncalves household. Kaylee has 4 siblings. Maddie is an only child, and her home, by contrast, is quite quiet. Since their early teens, these two shared summer boat rides on the lake in 𝐁𝐞𝐜𝐨𝐬𝐞, winter bathing in the nearby hot springs, trips to Seattle, beach vacations in Puerto Rico and the Grand Cayman Islands, in Hawaii. They've never spent more than a few days apart. Maddie recently heard that UI sororities like to separate girls who know each other well. Apparently, the point of Greek life is to make new friends and not cling to old ones. Here in the auditorium, Maddie waits to learn if AFE will choose Kaylee over her. It's a daunting moment as the clock ticks on. 20 seconds to go. The hundreds of freshman girls in the auditorium count down together. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. Maddie and Kaylee tear open their envelopes. There are screams all around, women sobbing, running. Maddie's eyes blur with tears. She didn't make AFE. And Kaylee did. The slip of paper in Maddie's envelope tells her she's been picked by Pi Beta Pi, known as Pi Phi, a perfectly respectable sorority, but not generally considered a top house on the campus. Within seconds, there's a stampede for the exits as the women race out to the lawn to find their new sorority sisters, standing out there under the signs. Here now isn't the time to say goodbye, but for Maddie and Kaylee, it's an ending, and it's a beginning. Chapter 2. Hey, Laura. Hey, Eternal. Chapter 2. Moscow, Idaho, August 20th, 2019. I guess behaving. Maddie's a talented photographer, and she's done some modeling, so she knows how to make her Instagram seductive. The Pi Phi sisters want to build up their house's reputation so they can be more competitive with top ones like Alphi. Maddie does her part, creating a scene befitting a Disney movie. 7 beaming, modern-day Cinderellas. Maddie among them pose on the steps of the Pi Phi sorority house in matching white tank tops. The 4 older sisters have on matching pink miniskirts, and the 3 younger girls wear matching denim shorts. The archway behind them is covered with pink balloons. Maddie captions it, "I ran home. Hashtag Pi Beta Pi UI." Kaylee comments, "That's my best friend. I love you so much. For life, baby." Of course, Kaylee knows how disappointed Maddie is, and she hurts because Maddie is hurting. Showing wisdom beyond the years, the friends accept the idea that widening their prospective social circles will be good for both of them. In other words, they'll play the game of Greek life. Kaylee can't fail to express her own unmitigated joy about her acceptance into AFI, which is why she posted a photo of herself smiling with 2 new sorority sisters in front of the house with the caption, "What Flo Rida said, hashtag welcome to my house," referencing the rapper's 2015 hit, My House. Maddie comments, "So happy for you, bestie," heart emoji. Their public Instagrams, TikTok, and Snapchats tell the story of their growing closeness with their new sisters and new best friends. Privately, Kaylee and Maddie remain as tight as ever, quietly maintaining their lifelong bond in real life as the expression goes on. Maddie's posts reflect her new friends with sorority sisters, Sophia Whitehead, who is in the year above her, and Ashlyn Couch, who, like her, is from 𝐁𝐞𝐜𝐨𝐿𝐴. Kaylee's posts show weekend activities, attending U of I football games on campus, traveling to Seattle with her sorority sisters, and nuzzling her boyfriend, Jack. What they don't post is pictures with each other. The two kept up this illusion of separateness well into the semester when the balloon of unreality surrounding them is abruptly pierced. In March 2020, the pandemic strikes. Chapter 3. Rathdrum, Idaho, March 2020. At the end of spring break, Kaylee and Maddie both received emails containing the same instructions. Don't come back to the sorority house. School is going remote. The girls are home in Rathdrum and the neighboring town of 𝐁𝐞𝐜𝐨𝐬𝐞, Idaho, and for them, it's like old times. They have each other, and given the stress surrounding the virus, they decide that pretense, even on social media, is no longer important. The day after Maddie's birthday, May 25th, Maddie May Day, Kaylee posts the first Instagram photo of the two best friends together since their arrival at UI. The two of them are hugging, wearing pretty summer dresses, standing by the lake. The easiest person to celebrate, Kaylee writes. Here's to my sweet Maddie May. Later that summer, Kaylee gives Maddie a shout out. At Madison Mogen, thanks for always being my personal photographer. It's a source of pride to Kaylee that Maddie has asked to run the official Instagram account for the AFEs, whatever. It's a huge honor. It's also an irony. Maddie, initially disappointed to be joining Pi Beta Phi, is now responsible for attracting recruits and making the house look as appealing. She's good at this. Thanks to her pretty pictures, despite the isolation of the pandemic, the number of freshman women interested in joining is climbing. Few people in the Goncalves family think the pandemic is a big deal that the UI administrators believe it is. The Goncalves children have been raised not to trust the government or institutions. They are libertarians. They live to bet on themselves. Kaylee's dad, Steve, works in IT at the hospital in 𝐁𝐞𝐜𝐨𝐬𝐞, an hour and a half north of Moscow. Over dinners at home, he tells his family that the only people who are dying in the hospital are those who have pre-existing conditions. Mostly, they're obese. He thinks the university is making a mistake not letting the kids back. To take college classes over Zoom is bad enough, but bills keep coming in from AFI. She's livid that she and her sisters are paying live-in dues for the house they're not allowed to occupy. Following orders unquestionably is not a Goncalves thing to do. So Kaylee queries the chapter president. Why are they paying for nothing? If they can't get some of that money returned, Kaylee says she doesn't want to go back to the house in the fall. The rules are the rules, the president tells Kaylee. The house won't negotiate, especially with the new sister. None of the sisters can move out of the house until they're juniors and have accumulated a certain number of service pointers. Even then, the AFI and admins add another hurdle. Sisters need to pay for both living in and living out. So in late August, Kaylee's stuck returning to the AFI house, and it's a litany of pandemic health and safety protocols. Kaylee doesn't want to do the physical distancing on the regular testing or the mandatory quarantine procedures. None of it. But she's Kaylee, so she faces the reset head on, posting, now let's get back to it. This year, the girls who are rushing sororities have their smiles hidden behind masks. Coffee meetings are held on Zoom. Hugging is not allowed. Still, Kaylee takes a liking to two of the freshmen. Emma Tiger, a beautiful brunette from Vancouver, Washington, whose soccer career was sidelined by an injury, and Jaden Anderson, a blonde from Spokane. One of the most important rituals among sorority sisters is choosing bigs and littles. Big mentors her chosen little through college, academically and socially. Emma and Jaden are eager to become Kaylee's littles, partly because of her extraordinary enthusiasm and can-do attitude. When Kaylee hears there might be an in-house quarantine one weekend, she whisks Emma and Jaden off home with her to 𝐁𝐞𝐜𝐴𝐴. She takes them shopping, to concerts, for drinks, to coffee. She makes them a basket of goodies. She also was a girl you don't mess with, Emma recalled. Nobody would ever say a bad word about me in front of her because she was not okay with it. If there was some guy that was being rude to me at a party, Kaylee was the first one to say something to him. One big little night in October, Kaylee surprises the two by waiting for them, shrouded in pink wrapping paper in the parking lot by a large off-campus apartment building known as the 𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐻. When the two freshmen find Kaylee and unwrap her, their screams of delight echo several blocks away. At this point, the two younger girls are still caught up in the excitement and honor of being accepted into the AFE. They don't know yet, but the pressure that comes with being in the quote-unquote pretty girl's house. Darker times are just around the corner. Chapter 4, Greek Row, Moscow, Idaho, September 2020. I'm Xana, pronounced Xanax without the X, is how the petite brunette introduced herself to the house on the first day, and everyone laughed. Her name is Xana Kernodle, and she's irrepressible as Tigger in the Winnie the Pooh books. Always smiling when I'm with my Xan, Maddie captions a pair of Instagram photos of the two of them together on September 11th. Maddie tells Kaylee she is impressed with Xana because despite her freshman status, she is not afraid of anyone or anything. Xana isn't used to much rules. She grew up in Post Falls, Idaho, pretty much without her mother, Kara, who had been battling drug addiction most of her life and gave up custody of Xana and her sister Jasmine in 2006. Xana adores her dad, Jeff, but he traveled frequently for work, so Xana and Jazzy were often left on their own. Along with her best friend, Emily, a pretty feisty blonde from Boise, and a fellow new A5, Xana regularly busts out of the house at night and on the weekends, even though they've both been told to stay inside and stay sober. One evening, Maddie introduces Xana and Emily to a group of Sigma Chi brothers, and she's surprised and amused to discover the two new girls had already met them on an illicit night out. That was pretty cool, actually, Maddie says to Kaylee the next morning. The two are tiring of the enforced restrictions in this life they had once wanted so badly. A5 and I have had a worse deal than you do, Kaylee tells Maddie, who is sympathetic. Under the stress of the pandemic restrictions, Kaylee explains the bitchiness for which the house is infamous is coming to the fore. A5 is turning into a nightmare version of Mean Girls. I hear you, says Maddie. We didn't sign up for this. They begin to discuss their options for living off campus. Kaylee finds an apartment in the Whites. Maddie's got her eye on a house right next to it, 1122 King Road, where some older Fies like Sophia, her big, and Ashlyn, and her best friend in the house are planning to move. The house sticks up on the hill like a finger. It's got a deck in the back, so it will make a fantastic party space. Even better, Maddie tells Kaylee, it signifies freedom. It's going to be great, she says. Chapter 5. Moscow, Idaho, Valentine's Day 2021. You forgot your wallet, Maddie asks 𝐭𝐥𝐥𝐲-𝐕𝐞𝐫. Maddie is all dressed up, even though it's just breakfast. She's wearing jeans with an oversized beige sweater that falls artfully off her shoulders. It should be obvious to Jake that she's taking this seriously. It's Valentine's Day. She told Kaylee it was a date. She told Xana and Emily it was a date. They're all eager to hear how it goes. And Jake has forgotten his wallet? The guy sitting opposite her in this cute downtown Moscow cafe called the Breakfast Club is a junior in the Delta Tau Delta fraternity who's been hotly pursuing, quote unquote, pinning for her, is how some of her friends put it, for over a year. Maddie always got a lot of admirers. Though Jake is handsome, nice, fun, and great water skier, for some reason, she's always kept him at bay. Maddie has to give the guy credit, though. He's never given up. He's stuck around. He's grown on her, and she's thinking of relenting. Now he stuck her with the bill. Maddie can hear the girls shrieking with laughter. She knows they'll make fun of her. Sure enough, when she tells them, they think it's hilarious. That night, Emily posts a picture of Maddie, all made up, false lashes on, clearly ready to go out on Snapchat. It's cheekily captioned, "Didn't even pay for the date." Still, the handsome upperclassman succeeds in winning Maddie's affections. Soon after Valentine's Day, Maddie commits to Jake. She stops seeing the other guys, and from then on, they're a thing. Just over a year later, on April 27th, she'll post a throwback on Instagram of some of the couple's best times together, boating in Coeur d'Alene, at the Watershed Music Festival, hanging out at school. Maddie captions the post, "1 year with my best friend. Life is so much sweeter with you in it. I love you lots and lots, at 𝐭𝐥𝐥𝐿. Jake will soon be graduating and moving to Boise for a job. Maddie wants to move there too, get a summer job and be with him. Why? Because Jake, she has decided, is for her future. Chapter 6. Moscow, Idaho, fall 2021. Family breakfast is Kaylee's conscious effort to maintain her bonds with her 4 best friends from AFI, Ava, Zoe, Katie, and Phoebe. Kaylee is looking into the little kitchen in her off-campus apartment. at the whites. The pan is sizzling as the pancake she's making turn gold brown. They look and smell delicious. She whips out her phone so she can document the moment with an Instagram post. Helping Kaylee out in the kitchen is her boyfriend since middle school, Jack. Like Maddie, he came to UI mostly because he wanted to be with Kaylee. Jack is living off campus in a house close to Kaylee with a bunch of his Beta Phi Pi fraternity brothers. He and Kaylee go to games together. They share custody of a golden doodle, Murphy. She even includes Jack in her Instagram posts for her house. He's family. Everyone loves Jack, an Idaho all-state tennis player. He has strawberry blonde hair and freckles. In photos, he bears more than passing resemblance to the Harry Potter character Ron Weasley, but in real life, he is considerably more handsome. Jack is as quiet and calm as Kaylee is effervescent. He's a rock for Kaylee as long as she wants one, and to be sure, her family and friends have always had the impression that Kaylee decides the tempo in terms of their relationship. Recently, though, there have been small signs of trouble in paradise. Kaylee's been feeling an itch to do things on her own, not because she wants to part from Jack, but because she likes being independent. Jack, I need 5 hours to get ready, Kaylee will tell them as she sits down at her vanity. That means he needs to go away, and he does. Kaylee has a lot on her mind, and she's finally won her freedom and is living off campus. She wants to travel, to experience the world, to learn what's out there beyond Coeur d'Alene. And she wants to make money. The pandemic helped her expand her professional network online, and she's made connections at Extreme Networks, Extreme Networks, an IT firm in Austin, Texas, during work she's interested in pursuing full-time. Her dad and her brother are in IT, so it's in the blood. The job would require a big move and probably leaving Jack behind. If Jack is serious about her, he might have to play the long game and wait, which is what he's doing now. So as she flips the pancake after pancake and piles them into a stack. Almost ready? Jack asked her. Kaylee pours more batter into the sizzling pan. It'll be a little while. Chapter 7, Moscow, Idaho, August 2021. Tomorrow is bid day, and Ethan Chapin and his brother Hunter have options. In the freshman dorms, Ethan, all 6'4" of him, turns on the shower, stands under the torrent of hot water, and closes a stall door. He wants a moment of privacy. He wants a moment to mull over the choice he's facing. The Chapin triplets grew up in Mount Vernon, Washington, 2 hours north of Seattle, and they seem to have it all. Looks, heights, smart, athletic ability, and likability. Ethan is a superb athlete. He played varsity basketball. Hunter was right there with him, but always one step behind, sometimes on the bench. Their blonde sister, Maisie, played varsity soccer, and all three of them are first-rate golfers. All three of them are as tight as can be. They've shared rooms and meals since they were born, before even. During her pregnancy, Stacy Chapin, their mom, used to joke that Hunter, who was born last, was on the top in the penthouse. It's unsaid but understood that whatever choice Ethan makes, Hunter will follow. That's the dynamic of their relationship. Always has been. So Ethan is thinking pretty hard about what his decision will be, knowing it affects them both. The obvious choice is Sigma Chi. It's the fraternity of athletes who have smarts. And yet he's leaning toward Phi Delta Theta, which is, by reputation, a dry house, but it's also known as a stoner gamer house. My apologies if I'm saying that wrong. I clearly didn't go into a fraternity or whatever, sorority. No, not Ethan's thing, but an older Delt has been persuasive. Over several meetings during Rush, Hunter Johnson, who is doing a master's in athletic training, has made an understated yet confident case for the Phi Delta Theta by demonstrating qualities that Ethan admires in a brother. Ethan gets out of the shower, still lost in thought. A door bangs open. He looks up. Emerging from the next shower stall is another freshman, Tim DeWolf, a blonde hunk of a varsity basketball and soccer player from Odessa, Washington, a small farming community. DeWolf is also 6'4" and excludes masculinity. Hey, Tim, Ethan says, what house are you going into? Tim looks at Ethan like he's stupid. Duh, Sigma Chi, he says. It's a natural fit for athletic dudes like them. Oh, says Ethan. Well, I was thinking of Phi Delta Theta because of Hunter Johnson. Hunter Johnson, Ethan feels, has a unique sort of soulful charm. He's a talented guitar player. He's slender, yet athletic, but also goofy. But Tim D. Wolf is it. Ethan pauses, then says, but if you're going to Sigma Chi, then I'm going to Sigma Chi. And with that, the angst is over. The decision is made. Chapter 8, Moscow, Idaho, October 3rd, 2021. The doorbell rings at 1118 King Road. The rectangular house with huge windows, a design that inspired the building's nickname, Shark Tank, sits just off campus. The place might as well be called Party Central because just a few weeks into the fall semester, its 5 occupants, especially Xana and Emily, have become known for hosting the best and most frequent parties at UI. That Sunday morning, a bunch of freshman Sigma Chi brothers are standing there, summoned to get to know the Shark Tank woman by playing a game called Champagne Shackles. Come on in, says Xana. She and Emily grin. They've got the bottles of bubbly ready and the zip ties. The rules of the game are simple. The ties go around the wrist of a man and a woman, who have to stay tied together until their bottle of champagne is finished, even when going to the restroom. The tall, dark Chapin brothers, Ethan and Hunter, are easy to spot among the crowd of Sig Chi freshmen. One of Xana and Emily's housemates, Josie, a pretty brunette from Boise, immediately calls dibs on both of them. Xana cracks up. Josie, can you even tell them apart? She asks. Excitement builds as they whip out their phones to take the most embarrassing photos possible for social media. That's part of the fun of this. It's almost the point. Xana has on an eclectic outfit, a psychedelic sun hat that is a mix of bright pinks, purples, and yellow, a yellow bustier, and black jeans. She's in her element, giggling as Emily's photographs her sitting on the toilet while the guy she's shackled to, Peter, is stuck on the floor by her side. Sitting in the living room, practically immobilized by the ties for hours, Ethan can't help but notice Xana's effortless magnetism. Xana is the one running the music. DJ Xan, her housemates yell as she changes songs. She's the one in charge of the shambolic wee dancing and making sure everyone has drinks. Xana is the focal point of the party, though she doesn't seem to notice the attention. When the game's over and the day's finally winding down, Ethan asks Xana about herself. He discovers that Xana is just Xana. She has no big plans, no idea what her future is. She's in the present. She makes no apologies for this. She's the most realist person he's ever met. He's hooked. In the next few days and weeks, he often finds himself making the few 100-yard trek from Sigma Chi to the Shark Tank. He and Hunter regularly hoist their massive stereo on their broad shoulders and carry it across the lower 40, as the field is called, so DJ Xan can play whatever she wants. In the midst of all the music, the dancing, the talking, he notices that Xana gets some work done by passing her assignment book around and insisting each person take a stab at writing a paragraph. Her spirit is infectious. He's so smitten, he asks Xana to become his big. According to the historic fraternity rules, there can be brothers and sisters in different houses, though dating your Greek sibling is considered sort of incestuous. But Xana has never cared about the rules. In early 22, it starts to become unclear as to when Ethan arrives and when Ethan leaves 1118 King Road. Does he actually go home at night, or does he sleep over in Xana's room? Anything going on I should know about? Emily asks Xana one morning. Xana shakes her head. She'll speak only when she's 100% sure what she wants to say. Chapter 9. I like that. I like Xana's personality. I like that we're learning this through this book. Chapter 9. Boise, Idaho, April 2022. It's early midnight when Karen Allant wakes to her ringing phone. The caller ID says it's Xana. Karen's blood runs cold, as any mother's would. Is Xana okay? Is her daughter Emily okay? She picks up, panicked. Mama Karen, guess what? Says Xana casually, as if the late hour were completely irrelevant. Xana, you scared me half to death. Do you know what time it is? Karen asks. Xana just laughs. Karen relaxes in spite of herself. How distinct and rich and simply full of joy Xana's laugh is. I want you to be the first to know. I've got a boyfriend. Karen giggles at the needlessness of this conversation. It's been obvious to everyone that Xana and Ethan are on the cusp of something, but she plays the game. How did the talk go? Did you guys sit down and discuss it seriously? Xana spills the details. No, it was easy. We didn't need a big talk. It just happened naturally. Xana is a free spirit. Karen sees the relationship as a sign that she's growing up. In fact, all the Shark Tank girls are growing up, forming committed attachments. Emily has begun to date Hunter Johnson. Josie is seeing another Delt, Lyndon Beck. Karen is thrilled that Xana feels able to share this moment with her. She has developed strong material feelings toward this exuberant, effervescent young woman who is so passionate, so resilient, so unself-pitying, despite a difficult upbringing. Xana doesn't talk much about having grown up without a mother, but the signs of loneliness are there for them all to see. Emily could sense that Xana's home life wasn't exactly the most orderly. Sometimes Xana drives over to Pullman, where her older sister Jazzy, is studying marketing at Washington State. Jazzy, petite and pretty, is the sensible one. Xana idolizes her big sister and wants to follow in her footsteps. Jazzy also has nice stuff, so when Xana and Emily visit her in her dorm room, Emily knows she's supposed to chat with Jazzy to distract her while Xana filches a shirt or whatever she needs from her sister's closet. Inside the Fi house, Xana has mismatched bedding, few clothes. Emily teaches Xana how to do her makeup, how to use a curling iron, skills that other girls learned years ago, but that no one has ever taught Xana. Before their first Christmas break, Emily noticed that Xana was the only one not packing. Xana, she said, "Where are you going for winter break?" Xana shrugged and said she didn't know. Her dad, Jeff, might not be home. She didn't know his new girlfriend, and she didn't much like her room in the basement. That first Christmas, Emily invited her home to Boise to hang with her parents, Matt, an Army veteran, and Karen, a pretty blonde who was a dead ringer for her daughter. At first, the Unlands didn't know what to make of this free-spirited young woman their daughter has brought home. But Xana, with her expressive hand movements, her open personality, had a talent for winning people over, making everyone laugh. Now, Xana regularly stays with Lance during the breaks. Karen looks forward to their 11 p.m. phone calls. She comes to visit the girls in the Shark Tank and goes out with them sometimes. Karen starts to consider Xana a second daughter. After Xana hangs up with Karen, she finds Emily and gives her the news. "You told my mom first, you bitch," Emily says with a laugh, and then gives Xana a hug. Thank you, Mallory. Thank you. I love you reading this to us. Yay, I'm glad you like it. I'm enjoying it too. Okay, so chapter 10, let me get a drink. Chapter 10, Priest Lake, Idaho, summer 2022. It's 4 p.m. and Ethan Chapin is finishing up a shift as a server at the Hills Resort restaurant, nestled on beautiful Priest Lake up in the Idaho mountains. The sparkling water with the snow-crusted surroundings got its name from the Jesuit missionaries who once lived near there. The Chapins have two homes, one in Mount Vernon near Seattle and a summer house on Priest Lake. His mom came here as a little girl, and he and his family have been coming here all his life. There's no one Ethan would rather be. He yells to Hunter, and the two head to his favorite place within his favorite place, the resort's sand volleyball court right on the shore. In front of the resort's bar and the restaurant, the community is tight. No one locks their doors. People call one another by their first names. Ethan knocks on the door of cabin 101, which belongs to Zylac family. It's a running joke that the Zylacs are the uber competitive. Ethan's ideal match is the 6 Zylac kids versus everyone else. Whatever the numbers, he finds a way to make a game of it. Once on the volleyball court, he strips off his shirt and takes his position. He and Hunter hit the ball back and forth over the net with a little crowd, including their parents, Jim and Stacy, and this summer, Xana gathers to watch the magnificent sight of Ethan in full athlete mode. He jumps, he sets, he dives, he spikes, a mythic Greek god in action. Ethan made varsity basketball as a high school freshman, but the pandemic restrictions deprived him of crucial competitive seasons that would have prepped him to play at the college level. Over the summer, the Chapin triplets worked at Hills Resorts, which was full to bursting with people wanting a rural escape. This time together made the trio realize that they wanted to attend the same college, and they needed it to be east of the mountains, and they wanted to be involved in Greek life to keep the small family feeling that they were used to at home. UI was an easy decision. WSU felt vast when they visited. By comparison, Greek row at UI felt so small and bucolic. It was like a private school. Their mom, Stacy, a former school principal and a Greek life alum at the University of Puget Sound, was relieved that her children would experience a safety net and type of community that she had been such a welcome part of their own college years. Now, as Stacy watches her son leap around on the volleyball court, she's filled with pride. UI has been exactly the nurturing place she wanted for them. They're thriving. Her husband, Jim, who believes Stacy's judgment is constantly rock solid, agrees. After the game, Jim, Stacy, Hunter, Maisie, Ethan, and Xana sprint to the boat Jim recently bought to satisfy their kids' love of the water. They turn up the music high, blasting out Morgan Wallen's latest album, and Jim drives the boat while the kids take turns wakeboarding and sipping drinks from the cooler. Ethan and Hunter love boarding so much that early every morning, they stuff their work clothes into their backpacks and go out on the water, coming back with only 5 minutes to spare before their shifts. Jim drops them at the dock and they sprint barefoot to their post. This summer, Ethan has been inseparable from Xana, who's been staying with the Chapins most of the time. Stacy can immediately see that her son is serious about this carefree young woman. The Chapins happily welcome her as one of their own. Changes are ahead for the upcoming fall semester. Xana is moving from the Shark Tank into a rental house on King Road. Stacy and Jim have rented Ethan an apartment in Moscow. The Sigma Chi president told Ethan that frat brothers who are double deficient, that is, with a GPA below 2.75 for 2 consecutive semesters, have to live outside the house. Stacy's only concerned about her oldest triplet is how far his grades have slipped. Though she suspects Ethan will stay most nights with Xana, she knows that the forced separation from his fraternity brothers will motivate him to raise his grades high enough to return to the Sigma Chi house. In the boat, the wind whips up and the sun slowly starts to redden and sink low into the horizon. Jim turns the boat toward the shore. Ethan turns the volume 1 notch higher, and they head home listening to Morgan Wallen's Heartless. If this isn't paradise, Stacy thinks, then what is? Chapter 11. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, July 31st, 2022. The room is spinning, like it often does when Xana has had one too many 𝐌𝐞𝐿𝐴𝐻, which she has had today on the lake. She falls flat on her face, feels the pain immediately. She looks in the mirror. She chipped her front tooth. Damn, she turns to Emily. She's upset. And not because it's going to cost money to fix a tooth. I don't want to be this person anymore, she tells her understanding friend. Xana is well aware of the reputation as a free-spirited girl in their core friend group. Xana and Ethan, Emily, Hunter, and Josie, Lyndon, Peter, and Ethan's triplets single siblings, Hunter and Maisie. But she wants to change that. Xana wants to grow up. She wants to be someone who fits in the world of Ethan and his parents. The Chapin family's fun, easygoing, but as Xana has seen, their life is different from her hardscrabble existence in her dad's basement. At Priest Lake, the Chapins all play golf on the local course. Xana has never played golf, but the Chapin triplets are really good. They love it, like they love all sports. When Xana first joined them on the course, she found that hitting a golf ball was harder than it looked. Out of mockery for their passion, she threw a club, then took a swig of her drink. Everyone laughed. As Karen Mama Karen has noticed, Xana is someone who is prepared to make a total fool of herself in public if it will put someone else at ease. But Xana doesn't want to be the butt of everyone's jokes forever. She never thought about the future before, but now she does. She wants to become a person who is taken more seriously, and she wants to grow old with Ethan. Chapter 12, Moscow, Idaho, June 2022. Maddie can hardly believe it when Kaylee walks through the front door at 1122 King Road. She's pulled it off. Their freshman year bid day, when the best friends were accepted by different sororities, feels like a distant dream. Here they are in their senior year, finally getting to live together. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Maddie walks to the car and starts helping Kaylee unload boxes and boxes of her stuff. Everyone knows that Kaylee doesn't travel light. She hauls a bag through the sliding glass doors at the back on and into her new room. Everyone also knows which room is Maddie's. She's put the letters of her name in the window, and her signature pink cowboy boots sit on the sill. Maddie's vanity is just behind. When it's dark and her lights are on, anyone walking by can see her putting on mascara. Maddie took over the King Road lease from graduating Pi Phi's, and she's pulled together a great group, her family away from her family. Perfect for a year of transition, which is what it's going to be. Jake graduated and is back home in Boise, but their plan is to make it through the year together, long distance. They speak every night at 8 Maddie has been meticulous about keeping the appointment a source of amusement for her new roommates who are now all moved in. Xana has taken a room on the main level. And of course, Maddie invited Emily too, because Emily had already made plans to room with Josie, her childhood best friend from Boise, next door at the Whites, the building where her boyfriend Hunter Johnson has also rented an apartment. So 1122 King Road's other two rooms went to two blonde sophomores who finagled a way to move out of the sorority house. Dylan Mortensen, who is Emily's little, and Bethany Funk, Maddie's little. Maddie bangs on each of their doors. Xana, Dylan, Bethany, she yells, photo time. They groan, but accept their fate, and the five women in their skimpy, summery dresses gather on the King Road deck. Maddie hands Ethan the camera. They pose, squinting into the afternoon sun. Xana, Bethany, Kaylee, Maddie. Meet the roommates. Maddie captions the photo, and she makes the post public as she always does. She doesn't think of any risk associated with that. Why would she? The more followers you have, the better your career in marketing. Maddie's life in this moment here now is pretty much perfect and going exactly where she wants it to. I believe that is the infamous picture we've all seen on the deck. Chapter 13, Moscow, Idaho. Emily's dream. The following scene, a reoccurring nightmare, is what Emily later says after she's lost her friends before justice has brought closure she imagines could have been that summer. The details of the surrounding change from dream to dream, but the gist of what happens stays the same. It's the only explanation she can come up with, the only one that makes sense. It haunts her day and night because the uncertainty of whether it's real or not will never go away. I'm also curious, you guys, like, who do you think the killer was trying to go for? All four of them or one of them? I know we've had assumptions about that. How much longer after that were they killed? I believe the next year, Laura. Was it a couple months later? I don't remember. Maddie or Xana? I think just one. Y'all, I don't think it was just one person who committed this crime. I really don't. But I know what you guys mean. Do you guys think one person was who the person set out to kill? The photo on the porch? Yeah. Maddie wipes down the table and turns to get fresh cutlery to seat the new customers. As jobs go, waitressing at the Mad Greek is a pretty good gig. The 40-seat restaurant with vegan-friendly menu isn't one of the more popular ones in Moscow, so servers, all college kids' friends, don't get run off their feet. Maddie's grateful for the pay. She can make as much as $80 per shift, which covers her gas and her Ulta card and the trendy clothes she likes so much. There's the added bonus that the manager asked her to redo the restaurant's website. Maddie continues laying the table. Then she turns and notices him. Unusual looking, intense bulging eyes, thin, almost emaciated, and pale, almost ghost white. He's raising his hand. He wants her attention. She smooths her skirt and walks over with a smile. He orders a vegan pizza to go. He's staring at her intently. Maddie is used to male attention, but this time it feels uncomfortable. I'm Bryan, he says. What's your name? Maddie hesitates, then tells him. Why wouldn't she? Everyone here knows it. She hands him the check as he pays, and he asks, would you like to go out sometime? This is an easy one, Maddie thinks. The idea of going out with this strange-looking guy is surreal. He doesn't know it took Jake, her boyfriend, a whole 2 years to become her boyfriend. Maddie is anything but easy, even for the guys she likes, and she doesn't know her like this one. She flicks her hair back. No, she says. She smiles, laughs a bit. It's a nervous habit she has, especially with guys she turns down. She doesn't mean anything rude by it. But this guy looks at her strangely, like he doesn't believe what he's hearing. He gets up slowly, still staring at her, and walks out. Maddie shakes her head and goes about her business. She doesn't give the guy another thought. She doesn't see the guy walk to his car, a white Hyundai Elantra, sit in the driver's seat and type her name into his phone. Her Instagram, with the photos of her past and present, is there for all to see. Maddie in a bikini, Maddie with her roommates, Maddie and her friends posting in skimpy clothes for a fit check before a night out. Maddie, Maddie, Maddie. He looks. He presses like once, twice, 3 times, and he looks and likes some more. I'm shocked. Chapter 14. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, September 2022. Kaylee stares at the guy on the couch incredulously. Did he really just say that? Bitch, go make me a quesadilla. Wow. She wishes she weren't at his house on this awful date. She wishes that she hadn't broken up with sweet Jack. But now she's wondering if Jack might be the nicest guy on the planet. And if most other guys are assholes like this one in front of her. Jack would have never used the B word. She'll later tell her older sister, Olivia, never. He couldn't even be mean or distant after she broke up with him. If he felt any pain or animosity, he didn't show it. He's just kind, sweet, gentle. He still swings by King Road house every few days to pick up Murphy, their golden doodle. She texts him about Murphy, telling him she's coming over with the dog or she needs to come get their pet, but she's never sure if she's reaching out for Murphy or for herself. The truth of it is, Kaylee still loves Jack. She didn't want to hurt him. She didn't even want to part from him. She just wanted a chance to discover herself, to break ties before leaving a new town in a new state. Kaylee's internship with Extreme Networks, the IT company in Austin, has turned into a full-time job that now she squeezes around her classes. In January, she's headed to Texas to work there on site. She's rightfully proud of her role as a channel manager, which means she comes in after the IT equipment has been sold to businesses and explains to the customer how best to use it. She's particularly proud of the winning pitch she made to Coffee Box about where to install Wi-Fi in their stores so customers can easily order on their phones while standing in line. She made a 10-minute video, and despite her lack of experience, the video was singled out by her bosses and sent company-wide. Kaylee keeps impressing me. Paul Semick, the head of the sales for the Americas, emailed his executive team, and he included a link to the video presentation Kaylee had made and worked her ass off to get it right. Every morning this summer, she's had a preparatory remote session with Olivia, a project manager who lives in LA, buys real estate with an eye to eye, renting properties out in Airbnb. Olivia is wicked smart and she's talented with tech. And after Kaylee goes back and forth with Olivia, she checks with the lingo with her dad, Steve, whose entire career has been in IT support. So now she looks at the jerk in front of her who just called her a bitch and told her to make him a quesadilla. No one pushes Kaylee around like that, especially not a guy in a state she's leaving. Kaylee is an independent woman. She makes good money from Extreme Networks and from her tips at La Casa Lopez, a Mexican joint in Moscow. And she spends her own money, $300 a week, on the gym and meal plans. She knows she's looking best. She knows she's looking her best right now. Kaylee doesn't like this guy. She doesn't need any guy, except maybe Jack. Who's she going to phone when she gets home? She's going to phone Olivia too and tell her that. She looks at the dude one more time. What a prick. You can make your own quesadillas. She gets up, grabs her purse, and walks out. On the drive home, she looks forward to the weekend back on campus and reenacting the scene for her new roomies. She can already see Xana roaring with laughter and Maddie wildly throwing her hands in the air. Yes, she thinks it will have plenty to say about when she tells them. Kaylee, they'll cry, pretending to be exasperated. Why is there always so much drama around you? Chapter 15, Moscow, Idaho, September 1st, 2022. Xana is waiting in her dark blue Honda for Karen, Emily's mom, at the little airstrip that is the Pullman Moscow Regional Airport. She's excited. She wants to show off her progress to the woman she considers a mom she never had. It's just a 10-minute trip to Xana's new place. Xana shows Karen her room on the main level of 1122 King Road. Karen admires their bedding, which now matches. Xana says she saved money this summer and opened a bank account, something Emily joked she never do. At Maddie's suggestion, she joined the staff at the Mad Greek and makes $80 or so a shift. She shows Karen the wall mirror she bought with some of her earnings. Karen's proud of Xana, who's beaming. She tells Karen she loves her new roomies. But it's bittersweet moment because for the first time in 3 years, Emily's living separately from Xana, albeit not far away, just across the street from where Emily is rooming with Josie at the Whites. Xana still sees Emily every day, and Karen heads over there now. Later that evening, Xana and Ethan drop by Emily's apartment, as they always do after a long day, to decompress and gossip. Karen is in her PJs. She recalled, Ethan sits down on the corner of Emily's sectional couch, and instead of sitting on the couch, Xana sits on top of him. She snuggles. She's happy, and she's telling us all about her day and what they did and da-da-da-da, who said this, everything. Karen couldn't look away from the comic visual of the effervescent, gesticulating woman sitting on the top of her patient boyfriend. It was like a sketch out of Saturday Night Live. Karen said, finally, he says, geez, woman, stop wiggling. And she throws her head back and laughs like she normally does and just goes on. Doesn't even miss the beat. It doesn't even faze her at all. She just keeps on wiggling and talking. She laughs at him and he laughs back, and he continues to let her sit there and wiggle all over him, even though he is so uncomfortable, obviously, but he's so patient with her and he adores her. The bottom line was clear, not just to Karen, but to Emily, Hunter, and Josie and Lyndon, all of whom were assembled in the room that night. Ethan would rather have Xana wiggling on his lap than be sitting anywhere else. Chapter 16, Moscow, Idaho, October 27th, 2022. After the roommates have a rare dinner at home together, Kaylee brings them into the living room. It's time, says Kaylee, to memorialize our group in our house on TikTok. Their house on 1122 King Road has become, on their watch, a UI fixture. It might not surpass the Shark Tank's legendary reputation as a party house, but it's still a place where people want to come, relax, have a drink, usually a shot offered by Xana and Ethan, and kick back. The view through the sliding doors is perfect for stargazing. What? You can stare at the trees and down the winding road for an ever-present reminder that there's another world called reality beyond the college bubble. In just a few weeks, Kaylee will graduate and leave to begin her journey in the real world. In anticipation of Thanksgiving, when Olivia will be back, she's spending most of her time in Rathdrum and taking many of her classes remotely. They come up with a commemorative screenplay, the roommates pretending to be each other. It's like charades, with clues drawn from invented scenes that highlight each friend's character. Ready, go, says Kaylee. First up is Maddie pretending to be Kaylee. She stomps up the stairs and complains of a dank smell. Murphy, you've been a bad boy. She pretends to chastise the dog for pooping indoors. Next is Xana pretending to be Dylan. She comes out of her room, backpack on, flustered. Fuck, it's 9:10. Guys, can anyone drive me to class? I'm late for my meeting. I'm supposed to be there 10 minutes ago. Next, Kaylee pretends to be Xana. She anxiously grabs a broom and starts to sweep frantically. Did anyone do their chores today? She doesn't wait for an answer. Ugh, I'm just going to do it. Next up is Bethany, pretending to be Maddie. Shit, you guys, it's 8. Gotta go. Jake's calling. She stands up from the couch where they're all sitting and heads to the door, repeating, Jake's calling. Next up is Josie, standing in for Dylan, pretending to be Bethany. She looks at a photo of herself on the phone and grimaces. Oh my God, you look horrid. Xana is now Dylan. She cuddles up to Murphy before realizing the dog smells rank. Oh my God, Murphy, you are so cute. And then putting the dog down, she exclaims, oh my God, you gotta get out of here. You're seriously gotta get out of here. Now Bethany is Kaylee. She reads a text in front of the group. Hey guys, I know I talk about myself a lot, but seriously, what would you guys do in my situation? Now Maddie is Xana, headed downstairs. I've got to do a test, she says. I failed 2 of them already. But now Maddie is Bethany. Is anyone doing a wine night? Let's just do a wine night. Dylan, being Xana, says, dude, is it okay if I throw a party? Just 3 or 4 people at most. They do several takes and several edits before declaring themselves happy with the video that Kaylee then posts. Whatever happens in the future, she'll always have this to hold on to. This picture of the house and the 5 of them in it. Chapter 17, Moscow, Idaho, November 5th, 2022. The week after the Chapin triplets celebrate their 20th birthdays, it's family weekend at the University of Idaho. Stacy and Jim Chapin are in Moscow buying their kids mimosas for breakfast. The 3 are still close as they were growing up. Xana is excited for them to meet her dad, Jeff, who lives in Arizona but is putting in an appearance. Stacy can see how happy Ethan is with Xana. Stacy can also see the signs that their kids are becoming independent adults. When the weekend is over, as Stacy and Jim drive away from the campus, Stacy shares a realization with her husband. The Chapin triplets are maturing into giving, thoughtful people, and it's clear that they're almost ready to lead their own lives. For parents, this is a milestone, a bittersweet turning point that all parents hope and dread they'll face. Parents hope and dread they'll face. Our job is done, Stacy thinks. Then she says out loud, our job is done. She and Jim look at each other. They grin. They high-five in the car. Our job is done. Chapter 18, Moscow, Idaho, Friday, November 11th, 2022. The residents at 1122 King Road start pre-gaming at around noon for the Pi Phi formal. They have no intention of going to the official formal. That would entail a bus ride and staying sober beforehand in the sorority house. The older girls who officially left Pi Phi the year before wouldn't even be allowed. The youngest two, Dylan and Bethany, prematurely left the house to live off campus and loyal to Maddie, Xana, and Emily, so they won't receive a warm welcome. It's picture time. They use a white shower curtain as a high contrast backdrop for the LBDs, little black dresses. Though Xana, who likes to be different, has donned a little red dress. Maddie poses for a photo with Dylan. Then Kaylee poses with Dylan. They both post photos on Instagram. The usual gang comes over. Emily, Josie, the Chapin brothers, Peter. Maisie pops in, but not Hunter, who was working over at the high school. Remember, Hunter's the one that finds the bodies. Drinks are poured. More pictures are taken. 6:00 p.m. They're all feeling particularly festive because tomorrow is game day. The UI football team is playing at UC Davis. Out on the back deck, Maddie films a video of the Chapin brothers, Emily and Xana shotgunning their drinks. She closes with a cameo of herself pretending to look ladylike and shocked. It's funny. The group is well on their way to getting drunk. Though the Vandals hardly ever win, game days in Moscow are local celebrations regardless of the score. Everyone flocks to the 𝐤𝐸𝐵. Everyone. Chief Fry is always there. So is the mayor, Art Becky. Parents with camper trailers host tailgating parties for their kids in the stadium parking lot. Tomorrow's weather forecast is bad, and the group has no access to a trailer tailgate, so the 1122 King Road roommates plan a party on campus instead of outside the stadium. Nonetheless, it's going to be fun. They take another swig of their drinks. Cheers to that. Saturday, November 12th, 2022, 8 a.m. Emily wakes up early and gets to the Dome by 8:30. She works part-time assisting UI football coach recruiting, which means she helps set up the stadium so that the coaches can meet with visiting parents and official and unofficial recruits. She's annoyed to be separated from her friends. She keeps getting updates on their activities and group chats. Xana is rallying the troops on campus. 11:30 a.m. Xana summons people urgently to King Road. Get over here, she texts Josie a dozen times. Xana puts her hair in two braids because Emily's not there to help her style it and her roommates are busy getting ready. Everyone at UI knows it's essential to look good on game day. The 1122 King Road roommates take their time to get ready. They stick to tradition and drink champagne while they apply their makeup. Sexy casual is the unwritten dress code. By noon, everyone's gathered at the King Road house. Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, Ethan, Dylan, Bethany, Hunter, Josie, Lyndon, Peter, and Hunter. 1 p.m. They move the party over to the Whites, where Emily and Josie's rooms are, where the A5s have an apartment. 2:00 p.m. Xana tugs at Ethan's hand and tells him to come outside. Obviously, the residents of 1122 King Road want a roommate photo. They ask Hunter Johnson to take it. First, they arrange themselves for an all-girl photograph. Kaylee removes her Idaho sweatshirt for a sexier bare midriff look. Coquette-like, she kicks her left foot behind her. The members of the group look at her. Dylan, who has her back toward the wall of the Whites, is on one side. The others, Bethany, Maddie, and Xana, hug sideways, lined up tightly. Hunter clicks away 15 times. Higher, lower, he asks. Kaylee checks, finds a decent one, and posts it to her Instagram. Now they need Hunter to take a photo with Ethan in it. The girls joke that the picture is incomplete without their honorary roommate. Landscape or vertical? Hunter Johnson asks. The answer is easy. Vertical. Kaylee, now in her sweatshirt, squats down so Maddie can climb onto her shoulders. They can fit better in the frame this way next to the gentle giant Ethan. Dylan is on the left, Bethany on the right. Between them, Kaylee with Maddie hoisted high, and Ethan, who as usual has his arms around Xana. Hunter takes 15 shots on Kaylee's phone and hands it back to her. She texts her favorite to the group. Emily smiles when she sees it. She misses her friends already. She and Xana have hardly spent a day apart in 2 years. Kaylee forwards a photo to her mom. Christy, and to Karen Laramie, Maddie's mom. 3:00 p.m. The group returns to the A-Phi or A-Phi? I'm sorry. Apartment where Hunter Johnson, Ethan, and Xana are watching Auburn versus Alabama, a college game they find considerably better than the one in the 𝐤𝐞𝐫𝐬𝐞. Hunter Johnson tells Xana and Ethan his sad news. He'll be leaving them at the end of the semester. As part of his graduate degree, he needs to intern in either Boise or Post Falls. But you'll come visit, Xana asks. Bummer, says Ethan. He tells Hunter to think of it not as a goodbye, but a temporary separation. 4:00 p.m. Maybe because he's distracted, Hunter Johnson puts his phone down and forgets about it. Maddie and Dylan eye it and decide to have some fun. They pose up a storm and take dozens of selfies, imagining Hunter's surprise when he discovers them an hour or two later. 4:30 p.m. You want to come with me to the game? Hunter Johnson asks Ethan and Xana. He's going to meet Emily and bring her home when the game is over. Ethan pretends to be distressed. No one cares about the actual game, only the tailgating. I can't, he says, fake crying. I got my sister's formal in a couple hours. Asshole, says Hunter Johnson good-naturedly. He walks out of the room having no clue it's the last time he'll see Ethan alive. 7 p.m. It's Theta's formal at the local brewery. Maisie's taking Ethan. Hunter Chapin is going with Maisie's roommate. Stacy, their mom, is so happy that the triplets are all together for Maisie's formal. She asks them to send lots of photos. She wants a full recounting of the evening. 9:00 p.m. Once the formal is over, Maisie's brothers try to persuade her to keep partying with them, but Maisie's tired. She asks her brothers to drop her back at the sorority house. Jim Chapin has told his sons they always need to see Maisie home safely. The job comes with the perk. The Theta fridge normally has pretty good sandwiches in it, and the boys get to help themselves before continuing their Saturday night. 9:30 p.m. The Chapin brothers go to the Sigma Chi fraternity house on Nez Pierce Drive across a field from 1122 King Road. Xana is already there. 10 p.m. The fraternity party is in full swing. Ethan wants his friends to enjoy it with him. Where are you? Ethan texts Hunter Johnson and Emily. Emily is in bed, exhausted after her day working at the football game. Hunter Johnson texts Ethan that he'll be over when she wakes up. He doesn't feel comfortable leaving her. Most unusually for a Saturday night, Josie and Lyndon are also home, asleep at the 𝐌𝐞𝐥𝐿 in Josie's bedroom next to Emily's. It's been a hard 24 hours of partying. 11:00 p.m. Ethan thinks about who else of his group is missing from Sig Chi party. His sister. You are so lame, he texts her. He hates being separated from her. Maisie doesn't see the text until the next day, when it's too late. Oh my gosh, we're getting there. Sunday, November 13th, 2022, 12 a.m. It's downtown Moscow. Kaylee and Maddie are together, jammed inside the Corner Club, a popular bar the size of a 3-car garage. The Corner Club is always packed, but on game day, it's heaving. It might be a windowless box, but it's Moscow's windowless box. This is a small college town where people look out for one another. Mark Tribalpiece, the club's owner, keeps a careful eye on the customers. He's been in the business too long to make rookie mistakes. Underage students like Dylan and Bethany won't pass the Moscow cops' strict protocols about IDs. A team of kids from Greek life work the bar, discreetly watching for anyone who's getting sloppy or might need help getting home. One of them is Adam Lauda, friend, fraternity brother, and roommate of Kaylee's ex, Jack. 1:20 a.m. The best friends have had enough. They're tired and hungry, and more than a little inebriated. I told Adam everything, Maddie says of Kaylee's quandary with Jack. Kaylee throws up her hands, concerned that Maddie has overshared with Adam, the guy behind the bar. The friends swerve as they make the 8-minute walk back to the main street where the grub truck is always parked. Food. They need food. Okay, we've seen the grub truck video. So remember that video? Do you guys remember? Just think of it now and reading in the book. Like, remember, place yourself there, because I am with this book. This is a good book. 1:30 a.m. At the grub truck, Kaylee orders a carbonara mac and cheese for her and Maddie to share. I so remember this. Oh my gosh, we're going to have to play this after. We need to do like a little, like, let's go back in time. They know the guy in the hoodie who's standing behind them. Jack Showalter. He's an occasional visitor to King Road. He's a good guy, they think. The girls flirt a little with him. Kaylee asks if he's interested in going to another party somewhere, but he's tired. Speaking of, so are they. It's been a long day. They need a ride home. Kaylee texts a designated sober driver. 1:50 a.m. Hunter Johnson texts Ethan to ask if he's still at the 𝐭𝐞𝐜 party. Emily's still asleep. 1:56 a.m. Kaylee and Maddie head back home to King Road. Okay, so this is when they head back to the house. They chat in the living room. Dylan is in her bedroom, wasted. Bethany is in her room, asleep. 2:00 a.m. Ethan responds to Hunter Johnson that he and Xana are still at 𝐭𝐞𝐜. Approximately 2:15 a.m. Xana and Ethan return home. 2:15 a.m. Okay, so that was at approximately 2:15 a.m. The part that I just read that says Xana and Ethan return home. 2:15 a.m. Kaylee and Maddie chat on the couch a little longer and then go upstairs and collapse on Maddie's bed. Murphy, Kaylee's golden doodle, is in Kaylee's room. Kaylee often leaves him there when she's out. For the umpteenth time, Kaylee tells her friend she's unsure what to do about her ex, 𝐁𝐞𝐜𝐿. They start texting him. He lives only 3 doors down. Kaylee misses him. She wants him to come over. 2:26 a.m. Kaylee phones Jack. He's asleep and doesn't hear her call. She calls a second time. She calls a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth. 2:44 a.m. Kaylee calls Jack a sixth time. Then Maddie phones him 3 more times. He sleeps through all of them, blissfully unaware of the imminent danger. 2:52 a.m. Kaylee tries Jack one last time. Okay, so I think here we know that were they asking Jack, calling him to ask for help? Probably. Okay. 2:52 a.m. Kaylee tries Jack one last time. 3 a.m. Emily wakes up at the Whites. So do too Josie and Lyndon. Josie realizes she's left her phone in the car. She goes to get it. It's foggy out, she thinks. It's dark and quiet. When she comes back, Hunter Johnson gets up and locks the door to the apartment. He doesn't know why. He's never done that before. He and Emily go to sleep. No one thinks to text Ethan or Xana. They assume everyone is asleep. In fact, Xana is awake, scrolling on TikTok. She orders DoorDash from Jack in the Box in Pullman, the only place open at that hour. Hey, Cat Rondel. Meow. 4 a.m. Xana's food arrives. It ought to be the ordinary end of an ordinary dating, except for Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana. It isn't. I don't think she was texting Jack at that time because she was scared. What about all those calls? Do you think? Only imagine Jack being the next day. I know, Mallory. Okay, it's 4 a.m. Xana's food arrived. It ought to be, the ordinary end of a day, but not for them. 4:17 a.m. Dylan is in her bed, drifting in and out of a fitful post-game day sleep. The walls of her bedroom are so paper thin that earlier Dylan could hear almost everything Maddie, Kaylee, and Ethan and Xana were saying as they chatted on the couch in the living room. Next thing she hears is a familiar stomping as they go upstairs. She can dimly hear music from one of their bedrooms, but then everything turns surreal. Not sure whether she's dreaming or awake. She thinks she hears someone frantically say, "There's someone here." Huh? That doesn't seem right. And yet, it also does, because so many people come in at 1122 King Road. Remember the party house. She gets up and opens her door a crack. Nothing. Dylan goes back to bed, but then she hears someone crying. Is it Xana? She gets up again and opens her door a fraction of an inch. She hears a male voice say, "It's okay. I'm going to help you." There's a thud, and Murphy starts to bark. Dylan shuts her door again. Is she going crazy? Now there's silence again. She opens the door a third time. That's when she sees the firefighter, or at least bleary-eyed, that's what she thinks she's seeing. He's got bushy eyebrows. He's wearing a mask. He's holding a firefighting object, a bit like a vacuum. They make eye contact for a split second. She shuts her door and looks around for her taser. The battery is dead. Bethany? She tries calling her friend downstairs. Nothing. But then, thank God, Bethany phones her back. Dylan tells her she thinks she saw someone in black, masked. Their call lasts less than a minute. Dylan then calls Xana. No reply. She calls Kaylee. Nothing. She calls Bethany again. They speak for 41 seconds. Dylan is breathing heavily. She's terrified. Has she gone crazy? Is she hallucinating? Then Bethany phones Xana. She also gets no answer. Dylan tries Maddie. Nothing. Bethany phones Ethan. Nothing. At 4:22 a.m., Dylan texts Bethany, the tragically obvious, no one is answering, and then I'm really confused right now. She texts Kaylee again. Kaylee, what's going on? There's still no reply. On the lower level, Bethany switches to Snap and then back to text message. She texts Dylan, yeah, dude, WTF. Then Xana was wearing all black. It's a question, not a statement. Dylan replies to Bethany's text. To the former, I'm freaking out right now. And to the latter, no, it's like a ski mask almost. Bethany writes back, STFU. Actually, Dylan's finger tripped on the keys as she types, like he had something over his forehead and little in mouth. Typo. But there's no time to fix typos. Bethany, I'm not kidding. I'm so freaked out. Bethany responds, so am I. Dylan, phone is going to die. Fuck. Bethany tells her, come to my room. Run. Down here. It's 4:24 a.m. Can Dylan run? Is it safe? Dylan tries to call Ethan's cell one more time, and she and Bethany have another quick exchange. At 4:27 a.m., she tries Kaylee again, then Xana. Still nothing. Dylan makes the decision to run. She sprints to Bethany's room. The two friends cling to one another. They keep trying to reach the roommates. Bethany tries Maddie twice, then Kaylee twice. Dylan texts Kaylee. Bethany goes on Snap and Instagram looking for clues. Nothing. It's 4:37 a.m. Exhausted and terrified, the two girls passed out. Neither of them falls into a deep slumber. Bethany wakes at 7:30 a.m. and calls her parents, telling them both about the strange events of the night before. Maybe, she tells herself, Dylan just had a very bad dream. Dylan comes to around 8 a.m. and also tells herself she's had a very bad dream after drinking too much. She immersed herself on Instagram for a couple of hours. The house seems quiet, calm. She agrees with Bethany. She must have hallucinated the whole thing. Around 10:23 a.m., when it should be time for others to start waking, Dylan texts Maddie, are you up? There's no reply, but that's not abnormal. Dylan dozes off again. Over an hour later, she rouses and also texts Kaylee, are you up? Nothing. Now she's starting to panic again. Was it all not a dream? At 11:49 a.m., Dylan calls her classmate at Phi sister, Xana Kernodle, and asks her to come over. Then she phones her big Emily, who is at her apartment having breakfast with Josie, Hunter, and Lyndon. Can you come over? Dylan asks. Something weird happened last night. I don't really know if I was dreaming or not, but I think there was a man here, and I'm really scared. Can you come check out the house? I texted Xana and the others, but no one is answering. I'm in the basement with Bethany. Emily laughs. Dylan can get really, really drunk. This is not the first time she's heard a story like this from her little. Haha, should I bring my pepper spray? She asks. Emily gets up and goes looking for a sweatshirt, and when she comes back, she sees Hunter Johnson has already left the apartment. Hunter makes his way up the steps into the house. He heads up the stairs and sees Xana's bedroom door slightly ajar. Unusual. He opens it. He sees her lying inert, as if she's fallen backward on the floor face up. There's blood everywhere. He takes in Ethan on the bed behind her facing he takes in Ethan on the bed behind her facing toward the wall. Hunter's heart is about to explode. He doesn't go any further into the house. He turns around, goes downstairs, and says calmly as he can to Dylan and Bethany, "Call 911 and stay outside." He takes a deep breath, goes back up the stairs, and heads to the kitchen, across the hall from Xana's room. He opens a drawer and takes out a kitchen knife. He's terrified. He's about to re-enter Xana's room when he hears someone coming up the stairs. It's Emily. He stops her. "Emily, I don't think Xana's going to wake up," he tells his girlfriend as softly as he can. She doesn't understand, but something in his expression chills her, and she stands still, rooted to the spot. I'm going in to take their pulses," he says, knowing already that he's too late. But he goes in anyway. After he's done that, he checks the closets for any sign of the murderer. There is none. Emily has gone downstairs. He follows and waits for the cops in the living room. Hunter says nothing to Emily or to the others who are outside. He's trying to protect these innocents from both the sight and the reality. But he already knows the horrific truth. Xana and Ethan are dead. Hunter doesn't know if Kaylee and Maddie are even in the house, but he fears the worst. The devil has been at 1122 King Road, and he has no idea why. I'm about to pass out. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying. Is this so good or what? I have so many things to say. I've been blacked out drunk many times. I have questions for the roommates. I have questions. And I think that's acceptable. And I think it's reasonable. I have a lot of questions about the drinking. If you saw him and you thought it was a taser, why wouldn't you think to call 911? Like, what is going on here? Why do you sit there on Instagram the next morning pretending it was a dream? Like, you were blacked out drunk. It wasn't a dream. I'm not trying to victim blame. I'm not trying to be an a-hole. I am just saying, speaking from experience and situations similar to this. So why doesn't she yell or go out there and do something? Right, Laura? I'm just seeing your comment. So they texting, Snapchat, talking, and no one calls their parents. Exactly. I'm calling the police first, and then I'm calling my dad and being like, "Yo, are you bailing me out?" Or whatever the case. You know what I mean? Like one of those situations. I don't want a victim shame. Oh my God, Laura, I'm just catching up on your comments, and we're thinking the same. They usually using Instagram, Snapchat, not checking in the room, not calling the cops, but not asking for help. Right? Oh my God, can you imagine how horrified that kid? Horrible. This is so freaking good. I know. I love James Patterson. Totally, it's hard to understand. It is. Like, I would have made a scene. Okay, so if I saw a man in a black mask and I was drunk, I would have made a scene, dude. Either I would have tried to go out there and fight him. I don't know. It's hard. I know to say, like, how would we would react in those moments, but I know I wouldn't stay quiet. I know I would try to find my friends. I know I would scream and make a scene or call 911. Like, I don't know. I just have questions. We're going into part 2. We have to. Okay, part 2. I'm just going to read a little bit more, and then we're going to do this tomorrow night. Actually, I have to say, I'm interrupting the book. I might have a guest on tomorrow night. We're going to have the first guest on Mellyverse. I'm not going to say who it is. But if we don't do it tomorrow, I might do a little bit of this after the guest. And if not, we're finishing this on Saturday. So don't make any plans for Saturday because you're going to be here reading this book with me. Mallory says, it gets hard to understand. She was very drunk and would never assume her roommates were dead and they had been in trouble and the cops doesn't want her to get in trouble. Good point, Mallory. Thank you, Laura. It's like she doesn't want to accept that. You know what? And I have questions, as I was saying earlier. Like, I think, is it weird that after the plea deal and the hearing, I'm starting to think this case is a setup? I don't know. Like, I'm starting to think something else of this case. I don't think Bryan Kohberger was the only one in that house to kill all 4 of these people. And I think that law enforcement was involved somehow. And I keep questioning myself. We read documents here all the time. I pay for FOILs all the time. Why are they so apt to sealing? Is that a word? Or did I just make that up? I don't know. To hide things and keep things sealed. I'm just having a lot of second thoughts about this case. And I don't know. Wait. Yeah, it is. It is eternal. Oh yeah, he does, Laura. He does. Not chiquito. Not chiquito. Okay. I'm getting distracted. Okay, we're gonna read a little bit more of part 2. Part 2, Inception. And I will post this. There's already another live for part 2 of this. That's already posted right now. So I'll change the time. And then once I know if my guest is still on for tomorrow, then I'll post that. Actually, I'm not going to post it until tomorrow. I don't want to give it up yet. Quite just yet. Okay. Part 2, Inception. Make sure you turn on your notifications, subscribe, do all them things so you don't miss it. Okay. Part 2 is called Inception. We're going to read a little bit of part 2. Chapter 19. Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania, 2013. Okay, so we just read the whole thing in the house, and now they're going back in the past, 2013. The 3 teenage boys are racing through the trees pretending they're Marines. This is the Poconos. Racing around in the woods with knives or guns is normal here. In these dense woods, the kids can play paintball all day and airsoft, and they can hunt critters, and they can lose one another for hours on end. 2 of the boys don't notice exactly where the 3rd boy, a tall kid with bulging eyes, positions himself. They don't see if he's close to the house or even inside it. The house is invisible from the road. Its owner, Mark Bialis, a former Navy SEAL who was the father of one of the boys, bought it for precisely that reason. He liked its remoteness, that it was surrounded by the woods. Mark is a skilled hunter of animals, but also of men. But even though he's a special forces veteran with skills and experience, he cannot catch the person who is repeatedly stealing his knives, his coins, his prescription pills, his girlfriend's jewelry. It maddens him. He keeps calling the cops, but they are worse than useless. They show up like, do a report, do nothing. So Baylist stays frustrated. Could the thief be one of the veterans he houses nearby as part of the charity he funded? That's a bad feeling. He doesn't put it together until years later that the thief must have been one of his son's friends. He doesn't see it in the moment, but he's sure later how it happened. The first time, he believes, the tall pale kid who weirded him out waited for the others to run off into the trees, then forced the lock and entered the garage where Mark kept his collection of army knives and took one. On the next visit, Mark thinks he took another. One by one, they vanished. Next, it was Bayless' coin collection, worth $25,000. Bayless talks to his son Jack and his nephew Brandon about the thefts. He says he's going to catch the thief if they try again. Shoot him. Jack tells the 3rd kid, whose name is Brian, that his dad is pissed. Brian tells Jack he reveres his father. That's what he says, or at least what he puts in a text. But what does Mark think he does smacks of something different than straight up hero worship. Someone starts to stalk Mark. The stalker hides in those trees, camouflage, munching on Reese's peanut butter cups, dropping the wrappers on the ground, waiting for Mark to leave on one of his orange motorbikes or in his pickup truck. The stalker forces the door open with a knife and heads for the bathroom where Bayless keeps old prescription jugs. But the thief can guess where he'd keep the jewelry, in the bedroom. And one time, the thief is up in the bedroom and hears wheels in the driveway. Bayless is back. Later, much later, Bayless puts the scene together in his head. He comes into belief that Brian, knowing he has the element of surprise on his side, hides, waits for the veteran to walk toward the back of the house, then sprints out the front door and into the woods he knows will protect him. Through the trees and onto the road. Safe. For now. Chapter 20. Broadsville, Pennsylvania. Fall 2012. When the tall, thin man and the fat teenage boy enter his boxing gym near Big Cheese Pizza off Route 209, Jesse Harris thinks this is a similar sight. Anxious parent bringing in troubled child. The former pro boxer opened his gym here for precisely this reason. He thinks of himself as having a dual role, physical fitness guru and mental fitness guru. Jesse set up the gym to offer local people who have given up, teens mostly, hope. Purpose. Anyone who's failed in life can make it in Jesse's gym. Boys looking for brotherhood, girls looking for sisterhood, or to learn self-defense. Anyone who's prepared to work, to train. Jesse's proud of his results. There are regular stories in the Pocono Record about the correlation between the work done in his gym and the reduction of crime in the area. Years after they've trained with him, people stop him in the street or wave him down in the car to express their appreciation. It makes Jesse feel great. Today, the lumbering kid who barely makes eye contact lets his dad do the talking. The man introduces himself as Michael Kohberger and says with forced brightness, "This is my son, Bryan." He says Bryan wants to lose weight. He's changing his habits, his life. He's going to start a vegan diet, but he needs to speed muscle up. He needs to build muscle, speed up his metabolism. The father's clearly a nice guy, Jesse notes, but a talker, hardly pausing to breathe. He tells Jesse he got his own HVAC business, works for the Pleasantville School District. He glances around the gym and tells Jesse he'd be happy to help with any maintenance issues for free. Fix a refrigerator, that sort of thing. Jesse says he can help Bryan as long as Bryan is prepared to help himself. He tells Bryan, whose eyes stayed glued to the floor, that he can use the gym daily for as long as he wants. The other guys in the gym look at the fat kid and roll their eyes. They've given up on him already. He'll never fit in, they are thinking. Jesse wonders if they are right. He too isn't sure about this kid. But the next day, right after school, the kid appears, swinging his backpack off his shoulders. The gym is an easy walking distance of high school, but his dad drops him off. Jesse's regular ignore the kid as he gets to work. No one else in the room is anywhere near that size. He must be more than 100 pounds overweight. Jesse shows Bryan the gloves, and they do basic pad work. Jesse stands on one side of the face-size ring hanging from the ceiling, and Bryan stands on the other. Pow pow. Left, right. Though his bulging eyes can't seem to stop moving, the kid looks focused. His considerable body weight goes into the punch. Jab, jab. 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Jesse can tell the kid likes the rhythm of punching. They all do, Jesse thinks. That's why boxing is better than therapy. The kid is surprising. He's back the next day. Jesse shows him the power pad. The kid stands on it, pulls the bands up to his side. If he keeps at it, Jesse tells him, he'll be able to pull the bands over his head. And the kid comes back again and again. Every day, the dad drops him off, coming in to chat with Jesse if the coach has the time. He mentions that Bryan has had trouble in school. He's been bullied, doesn't like their new house. His friend Jeremy was a bad influence, and they've had to separate them. Jesse notices as the day passes that Bryan is getting leaner and more focused. He spends 2 to 3 hours at the time in the gym. It's almost as if he's got nothing else to do, Jesse thinks. He probably doesn't. Now, when the dad comes in, he tells Jesse he's proud of the kid. Jesse tells him he's proud of Bryan too. The kid's no bother to Jesse or anyone else. Keeps to himself, works out, then leaves. The regular starts to acknowledge him. Hey, Bryan. He's one of them for now. Chapter 21, Effort, Pennsylvania, April 2013. Casey Arntz is playing a video game, The Sims, on a Friday night when she gets a text from Bryan Kohberger. She smiles because she likes Bryan. That's a bit of a controversial stance in her friend group. Bryan has had his ups and downs with her younger brother, Tom, who says Bryan likes to get physical for no reason. One of Tom's friends, Brandon Angelia, says Bryan has a temper. There's also the fact that Bryan hangs out with Jeremy Saba, who Casey thinks is a dick. And Saba is known to be a junkie these days, but she likes Bryan. He may not say much, but Bryan has always been sweet to her. He's solicitous in his texts. He always asks her how she is. Most recently, he's been asking her about her work at the glitter manufacturer in New Jersey and about her career plans. She wants to go into interior design after college. Casey knows Bryan's plans. He graduated from high school early in March and wants to go to college, maybe East Stroudsburg University, in the fall to study criminal justice. Tonight, he's texting Casey because he needs a favor. He tells her his car broke down and he has to get to his cousin's house near Luna Rosa, a restaurant in Brodheadsville that's 20-minute drive up Route 209. He doesn't say why. Casey says fine, she's happy to help Bryan. She feels sorry for him that he's stuck all the way up in Indian Mountain Lake in a weird gated community. It's a full mile from his home to the security guard's booth. So she gets into her car and drives the 3 miles up the mountain to meet Bryan, who's waiting for her outside the security gate. She drives him to Luna Rosa. He pops in and out of the restaurant, then asks if she can swing by CVS quickly because he needs to buy needles for his aunt, who is a diabetic. Casey thinks that's a bit weird. Shady, actually. But it's hard to argue with such apparent compassion. She gives him the benefit of the doubt. When he's inside CVS, she thinks fondly of the times they've joshed together, like when they used to play the game of things with Tom and Brandon, a party game where players guess who wrote which anonymous answer to prompt things like things you shouldn't say to your mom. She misses those happy times. A few days later, he remembers to text her happy birthday. She thanks him, as she always does. But when she next sees Brandon, he tells her it's common knowledge that Bryan gets heroin at Luna Rosa. That's why he needed Casey to give him a ride there and back. That's why he stopped to get needles at CVS. Casey feels sick. She realizes that most likely she was carrying heroin in her car. Had she been pulled over, she could have been arrested. Now Casey's mad. At 7:49 p.m. on May 21st, she sends Bryan a Facebook message, a rare instance in which she is driving the exchange, not him. I would like to hand you a big congratulations for lying to me about driving you around. I should have added up beforehand, but I thought I was doing something nice for someone. So thank you. If you would have gotten caught, I would have gotten in trouble for just driving you around not knowing why. But needles for your aunt? Wow. Real great story. Bye. A full day later at 8:33 p.m., he responds, I'm in rehab. I know that, Casey writes back. She receives no reply. But as the week turns into months, she forgives Bryan. How could she not? He's back from rehab and he's so patently lonely. He texts her repeatedly to ask if her parents will let them hang out. When she doesn't respond, his texts become sadder and less frequent. In early 2014, Bryan tells her to be proud that she's making something of her life. I'm not, haha, he writes. Casey wishes she would have been nicer to him, that they all could have been nicer to him. He seems to be struggling. On March 27th, 2014, nearly a year after the car ride to Luna Rosa, he sends a text. You know I love you guys. Always will, even if we stop talking one day. What is Bryan talking about? What does it mean? Okay, Bryan was bullied. Bryan thought he was a fat kid. Bryan had confidence issues. Bryan did heroin and was in rehab. I knew he had struggled with drugs, but I didn't know he was in rehab. Did you guys know this? I'm shook. I'm shook. I can't believe this. Book. Indian Mountain Lake, Pennsylvania, Chapter 22, 2014. Michael Kohberger doesn't want to make the call he's about to, but he has no choice. His own son is a threat to the family. None of it has worked. Not the boxing, not the diet, not the trips to the gun range, or the move away from Jeremy Saba, Bryan's childhood friend who got him into the heroin, not even a stint in rehab. Wow. Bryan can't stop using, which means he can't stop stealing. Now he's taken Melissa's cell phone and sold it at a mall kiosk for $200, half what it's worth. Actions have consequences. Children, whatever the age, need to understand that. So he closes his eyes briefly and then dials 911. The police arrive. Bryan has read his rights and cuff him. The kid is civil, barely looks at his dad. He knows who called the cops and why. There's a time to be calm, to talk to the police politely. Bryan knows this because he's only 16. There's a good chance this will be expunged from his record if he behaves. He'll go, again, to rehab. Outwardly, he'll be the good, polite son everyone wants. But inside, alone in the basement, Bryan lets his true feelings out on Tap Talk and SoundCloud, writing, recording, and posting an original rap song made for other sufferers of visual snow, a neurological condition that is the visual equivalent of TV static. The rage, the loneliness just pours out of him. The words are layered over a beat that is equally staccato and furious, a track no one in his family is likely to hear. But this is real to him. Always the same thing that disrupts my life. Wonder when I'll change. I guess when the time is right. Procrastinating my derange to change would be a fight. So I'm a pacifist, like I'm afraid to get a bloody fist. Look at this. My mind is pissed, and I keep running. Why is it when I hit, it always leaves them stunning? I stuck in the future, but I'm never looking at the fucking present. Keep it up. Act like you're all that. Leave your loved ones crying like some seagulls. You are not my equal. You are evil. But now I'm going regal. Don't fuck with us. Hope you learned your lesson. Chapter 23. Indiana Mountain Lake, Pennsylvania, August 2016. Bryan sits in the basement. He's out of rugs, of cash, and of friends. Now his mom is on him to go to Bible study with her. She thinks that will fix him. He's gone a couple of times. A text beeps on his phone. Bryan reads it. Maybe there's something that Bible stuff after all. This is a divine timing. Jeremy Saba has been arrested for DUI and possession of drugs. He's in jail. One man's misfortune is another's opportunity. Bryan calls a familiar person. Connie, he says to the woman who picks up. She trusts him. Wrongly. Bryan, she says, and thanks him for what she assumes is a call of condolence and support. Jeremy's mom tells him that she and Jeremy's dad will visit their son tomorrow at the jail by the courthouse in Broadheadsville. As Bryan hopes, the trusting woman shares the time they're planning to go. Would Bryan come to visit Jeremy right after? Bryan says yes. But as he ends the call, he might be informing his real plan. Connie later said that the Saba's absence from their home gave the perfect window to get what he needed. He used to live next door, so he knew the house, knew where Connie kept her jewelry and where she left her iPad, things he could sell to go get his next fix. And he knew exactly how to break in, through the garage. The next day, he executes the plan perfectly. As Connie and Jaire's Saba leave the courthouse in Broadheadsville, Connie wonders where Bryan is. Why hasn't he shown up? He sounded so concerned and solicitous on the phone. Something Jeremy once said nags at her. Bryan is manipulative. When the Sabas pull up to their house in effort, she sees at once why Bryan didn't come. Someone has been in their home. The door from the garage has been forced open. Her iPad is gone. She doesn't need to wonder who the thief is. She knows. Will she call the police? Her fingers hover over her phone. She thinks about Bryan's mom, Marianne, a teacher who, like Connie, works in the local school district. Marianne has in the past occasionally and uncharacteristically shared some of Bryan's struggles with her. There was his Asperger's syndrome diagnosis and later the substances. She puts the phone away without calling anyone. She doesn't know any of the specific, but she intuits that Kohbergers' family is in enough pain right now without Connie Saba adding to their problems. Chapter 24, Effort, Pennsylvania, 2018. She hasn't seen him in months. Then she turns and suddenly there he is, in her kitchen, standing there, unannounced, startling her. Jeremy's mom, Connie, isn't even sure what door he came through. He is just there, tall, well over 6 feet, towering over her eyes bugging out, and he's thin. She notices really thin. Bryan, she says, what are you doing here? Even as she asks the question, she knows the answer because she knows what they teach in rehab. He's come to atone, to make amends. He's come to say he's sorry for stealing from her. I knew it was you, Connie tells him. There's much more Bryan could say, that he started working toward a psychology degree at Northampton Community College, that he's lonely, he misses Jeremy, but he doesn't say any of that. He doesn't get the chance. After he's done apologizing, Connie thanks him, and then, with as much kindness as she can muster, Connie asks Bryan to leave and never come back to the Saba house. She needs to protect her son from the tall, newly thin former neighbor. Maybe, as she claims, he doesn't do drugs anymore. But somehow she senses that he's still a threat to their family. Centerville, Pennsylvania, 2018. Bryan's new classmates in the psychology program at DeSales University call him, quote unquote, the ghost. There's something spooky about him. Every day he enters class in the same uniform, a wrinkled black long sleeve button down and tan leather jacket. He's always carrying his silver laptop and a Starbucks coffee cup. After class, poof. Bryan's back in his car and gone in a cloud of dust, starting at the 45-minute drive along Route 78 and 33 back to Effort for his nighttime security guard job, and any other job he can get. A lab partner, Josh Ferraro, likes how organized Bryan is with their biology project, testing how caffeine affects the heart rate of water fleas. But these guys' eyes seem unusually wide open. and they're constantly darting around while his face is completely still. It's unnerving, Josh thinks. Josh notices that Bryan becomes less aloof and more animated in Psychology Sleuthing, a class taught by Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a famous criminologist. But it's fair to say they all love this particular class because it's fun. Dr. Ramsland takes her students into a building they call the crime scene house. It's like a theater set. The students pretend they're detectives called in to investigate a crime. They're given a scenario like this. The gun was found here, there was a brain spatter on the roof, 2 bullet holes there, and a rifle was in Johnny's hands. Then they're asked to theorize as to what happened. Dr. Ramsland teaches the students that killers get tunnel vision when they're committing murder. That's why mistakes get made. Amid the high adrenaline and hyper-focus on the act itself, killers can forget things they otherwise would not. Bryan takes careful notes. He will later write in an essay for his finals that he's learned staging is common among killers, and that investigators must wear fiber-free clothing to avoid having their DNA contaminate the crime scene. The DeSalle student also studies criminal profiling. They learn what sort of person chooses what sort of murder weapon. Typically, Ramsland tells them the white men choose knives. They are taught about digital forensics and learn that it's almost impossible to delete one's digital footprint. And they learn about the procedure in law, for example, how the legal process would likely play out if one of them was charged with murder. Not that anyone thinks that would happen. Most of the students expect to go into law enforcement. Bryan is no exception. He texts his friend Jack that he wants to catch high-profile offenders. Dr. Ramsland emphasizes to these future crime fighters how difficult it is to spot killers in their midst before they strike. She's an expert on serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and Ed Kemper. She wrote a book based on her years of correspondence with Dennis Rader, the famous BTK killer, whose moniker stood for his grisly methods: bind, torture, and kill. Rader, she tells the class, did not kill for 15 years while he was busy raising his own child. How to differentiate between him and us? Dr. Ramsland says there's a new theory arguing that psychopaths aren't the product of socioeconomics and environment alone. Biology has a larger role than people previously thought. The brains of psychopaths are structurally and functionally different from other people's, which means the only way to cure a psychopath is to get him therapy at a very early stage, by around age 4, and to try to train his brain to change. Bryan listens carefully to this and takes more notes. His classmates can't see what he's writing. And if you guys remember, this is the class where he does the whole crime scene report that was an exhibit in the case. He's literally studying all of this, all of what he did. Chapter 26. Center Valley, Pennsylvania, 2018. The image of on their screens is mesmerizing. A dark-haired 22-year-old man with movie star looks sits behind the wheel of his black BMW, his head tilted to one side. His face is bathed in the reddish glare of a settling California sun. He talks slowly, thoughtfully to the camera, as if to hypnotize his viewers with his words. Tomorrow, he says, is the day of retribution, but you forced me to suffer all my life. Now I'll make you suffer. His name is Elliot Rodger. He's from a wealthy family. He flies first class. His dad is a well-known movie director. He appears to be blessed in many ways. But he's still a virgin, and he's furious about it. In the video, one of the series he recorded in May 2014, he delivers a message to all the girls who have rejected him since he hit puberty. Hours later, he embarks on a murderous rampage. In his apartment, he stabs his 2 roommates, Chen Yuan, James Hong, and George Chen, a friend of David Wine. Outside the Alpha Phi sorority house near the campus of UC Santa Barbara, Rodger fatally shoots 2 women, Catherine Cooper and Veronica Wise, and injures her third, Bianca de Kock. At a local deli, he shoots and kills another young man, Christopher Michael Martinez. Then he drives his sleek black BMW through the crowded streets of nearby Isla Vista, shooting indiscriminately out the window. He injures 13 more people before crashing his car and committing suicide with a single bullet to the head. Not only did Rodgers meticulously plan the mass murder and suicide, he also broadcast his scheme in a series of videos on his YouTube channel. If you hit the mute button, you think you were gazing at the next Tom Cruise. But if you unmute, To all the girls that I've desired so much, they've all rejected me and looked down upon me as an inferior man. I hate you all. I can't wait to give you exactly what you deserve. In fact, Catherine Ramsland explains to her forensic psychology class, Roger had waited. His ultimate act of vengeance was carefully thought out, the result of years of pent-up anger about his lonely life. He kept a journal outlining his sexual and social frustrations about his various coping mechanisms: video games, late night trips to the gun range, buying lottery tickets, a new life in Santa Barbara, but none of it gave him sex or the girls that he wanted and craved so bad. When he lost his only childhood male friend, he was triggered and began to plan the diabolical end. He intended his final act to be so performative that it would catapult him to global fame. The last words he wrote in the journal were, "Finally, I can show the world my true worth." Roger titled the 137-page manifesto, "My Twisted World," and emailed it to his therapist, who sent it to his mother, who received it minutes before her son began the killing spree. At the time of Roger's day of retribution, he was seeing multiple therapists. The month before, his parents had reported his troubled mental state to authorities. The police visited his home. But as Roger was well aware, the law was narrow and precise about grounds for search warrants. He wrote in his manifesto, "If the police would have searched my room and found all my guns and weapons, I would have been thrown in jail, denied the chance to exact revenge on my enemies. That wasn't the case, but it was so close." Professor Ramsland explains that the police need better training to spot the telltale signs of potential suicide mass murder. One key tool comes from the American Association of Suicidology. Each letter of the acronyms is PATH-WARM, representing a warning sign. I, ideation. S, substance abuse. P, purposelessness. A, anxiety. T, trapped. H, hopelessness. W, withdraw. A, anger. R, recklessness. And M, mood changes. As they learn, the students don't realize that one of them, Bryan, exhibits every single one of these symptoms. No one person has full visibility on all the parallel between Bryan's life and Roger's. No one knows about his complaints. Bryan texts to Jack Bayless about life on Broke Bachelor Mountain. He describes himself as a good Catholic university student, full homo. No one knows that. Like Roger, Bryan is a virgin who hates women. No one knows that Bryan copes with loneliness by immersing himself in video games. Like Roger, he goes out for night drives. Like Roger, he visits the gun range. And like Roger, he goes to a local bar and tries to pick up women. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, 2019. Instead of heading back to Effort on the highway, Bryan takes a scenic route through Lehigh Valley. 15 minutes after Center Valley, he's parking across the street from Seven Sirens Brewing Company, which looks more like a vast Manhattan loft space than a college town bar. The students from nearby Lehigh University come here often. Bryan knows this. That's why he's here. Elliot Roger wrote that he kept trying to place himself in settings where he could pick up women, but no one noticed him. Bryan must think that surely he'll be noticed. Women must spot his looks, his intelligence. They must want him. They don't. So typically, after a few drinks, Bryan pushes his way into unwanted conversations with both female bartenders and female patrons. He even asked for their address. Women have started complaining to the brewery's owner, Jordan Cerulnek, about the creepy guy with the bulging eyes. So he put the kid on his watch list. Tonight, Cerulnek isn't going to give Bryan the chance to have more beer. He says, "I need you to leave the women alone. There's been some complaints." Bryan feigns astonishment. He gives a heck of a performance, almost Broadway level. Cerulnek will remember and demonstrate it in the future. "I don't know what you're talking about," Bryan says. "You have me totally confused." Bryan takes another sip of his beer, and another. It's like they're playing a game of chicken. Bryan finishes his beer. Casually, he saunters out. Cerulnek doesn't know if his words have had any impact, but as the days tick, he registers something that makes him happy. The kid doesn't come back. What a dumbass. That's why he came back the next morning and did a drive-by to get the knife sheath. I didn't realize Bryan had such like a dark childhood and past. I mean, I knew it was pretty bad. I think it's a lot worse than we think. Bryan is immersed in studying for his master's degree. Even though he's been stuck at home working remotely thanks to the pandemic, he's doing so well that one of his professors, Michelle Bolger, wants to recommend him for a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. She's only ever recommended one other person. Bryan is feeling elated. But soon, after March 16, his phone pings with news that Jeremy Saba is dead. What? The facts are tragically familiar. Saba was found upstairs in his bedroom. A lethal dose of fentanyl killed him. Extraordinary what a small pill can do. Earlier, he had been tinkering with the car in the driveway, then drove off in it to go get some oil, he told his mother. Minutes later, he was home, and then dead. The local police took his phone and computer, but they never found the dealer. Bryan is away when Jeremy dies. His parents had wanted to keep the news from him until they returned because they knew how hard it would hit him. All that's left for Bryan are memories. Memories of Jeremy, as high as a kite, making them all walk the yellow brick road, the dotted painted lines on the highway, Jeremy driving his Mazda, Jeremy playing video games, Jeremy working out. The last time Bryan's parents saw Jeremy, he's been doing well, apparently. Mr. and Miss Kohberger had run into Jeremy and his parents at the Texas Roadhouse, a steakhouse in Stroudsburg. It was a good meeting, Bryan's dad told Jeremy. He was proud of him for getting clean. Now Bryan pounds the table with his fists. He doesn't phone Jeremy's parents. He won't even attend the memorial service for Jeremy or contribute to the memorial page online. He knows that the tipping point for Elliot Rodger was the loss of his best friend, James Ellis. If only he were still my friend, Rodger had written of James. Bryan gets it. If only Jeremy were still alive. Pullman, Washington, April 2022. Chief Gary Jenkins, head of the Pullman Police Department, looks at his list of questions, then looks up at the intern candidate he's Zooming with. The name of the guy staring back at him on the screen is Bryan Kohberger. Jenkins has no idea where he's from or where he situated their online meeting. He certainly has no idea that just last month, Kohberger purchased a K-bar knife, sheath, and sharpener on Amazon for unknown purposes. What Chief Jenkins does know is that Kohberger is an incoming graduate student and a teaching assistant in the well-regarded criminology department at Washington State University. WSU, or Wazoo, as it's called, is in Pullman, so it's on Jenkins' beat. Kohberger applied for an internship with Pullman PD. Chief Jenkins can see the guy is hyper-focused. Nothing else stands out about him, not good or bad. But there's something odd about him that makes Jenkins say later he didn't think this guy would be able to build trust in his department. There's something antisocial about him. They chit-chat for 30 minutes. Chief Jenkins winds up giving the internship to someone else, and he doesn't think much about the guy after that, barely remembers his name even. Bryan packs up his gear, his new knife included, and gets his car for the long road trip to the other side of the country. Washington State University is in Pullman, Washington, on the border of Idaho, the Pacific Northwest. Elliot Rodger gave himself one last chance before planning his day of retribution. He moved cities, went from LA to Santa Barbara for college. I realized that my miserable, lonely virgin life was going to continue, and my only hope was to give Santa Barbara a try, Rodger wrote. Bryan put the keys in the ignition. One last try. Late August 2022. It's the weeks before classes begin at Washington State University in the small town of Pullman. The little airstrip Pullman shares with the nearby Moscow, Idaho, is just a 7-minute drive from the hilly campus. Washington State University is a large school, much larger than UI, with over 30,000 students. WSU territory is marked by the massive billboard bearing the logo of the Cougars. Washington State's university football teams who are competitive in their own division, unlike Moscow's Vandals. But football is not the school's only selling point. This August, WSU's famed criminology and criminal justice graduate program has attracted an international elite bunch, a self-described cohort of 11 students, 7 women and 4 men, who will be pursuing master's degrees or PhD degrees. One student comes from South Korea. Another, Sa, is from Bangladesh. Leon is from Taiwan. At a meet and greet with 20 At a meet and greet with 20 odd faculty members, the students pile their paper plates high with mounds of Panda Express and size one another up. They make small talk and learn about their differing areas of interest, ranging from cybercrime to human trafficking to police militarization and domestic terrorism to drugs and crimes and drug courts. One person says he studies maps, a subject the other person can't quite fathom his interest in. At 42, Ben Roberts is the second oldest in the group. He suspects he's the only one from the West Coast. He looks at the others' serious, scholarly demeanors and thinks he's probably the one who has ever used a chainsaw. Ben notices one of the students in particular. His name is Bryan Kohbergers. Bryan stands out because he's painfully thin. His eyes move too quickly, and his bags under them make a dark and too prominent for someone his age. Ben also notices that Bryan never takes off his jacket, even in the August heat. Ben assumes, wrongly, that he needs insulation on account of his willowy frame. Ben does not know about Bryan's history with heroin. He doesn't know that Bryan might be keeping his forearms covered in public to hide the telltale track marks of his past addiction. Ben is flattered when Bryan comes over to chat with him. Bryan is doing a PhD, which makes him senior to Ben, who is in the master's program. Bryan asks a lot of questions about Ben's background. The conversation kicks into high gear when Ben tells Bryan that he worked for the TSA. He was head of security at a small airport. Bryan lights up. I worked in security too, he says. Cool, says Ben. Where? Bryan becomes vague. Oh, back home. He doesn't say exactly where home was. Ben shares some experiences he thinks Bryan might have had himself. He tells Bryan that there were times at the airport when he found it particularly inelegant to have access control, that is, having to tell people who believed they had a clearance to enter a certain area that in fact they didn't, and then barring their path. Did you have any of that? Bryan nods vigorously. Ben continues, and the worst I found is when people do have the clearance, but they haven't gotten the right paperwork on them. It's so embarrassing to have to stop them going through. I know exactly what you mean, says Bryan. Ben wonders for a split second if this is in fact true. It felt like it might have been stretching, he later said, but at the time, Ben went with the flow. Bryan seems very articulate, Ben thinks. He spits words out with fluency and confidence of someone who expects to be listened to. Ben has no idea that Bryan is in fact giving a bravura performance, playing the role of someone he has never been, namely someone who belongs in the room. The silent, awkward introvert has been replaced for now a confident, articulate intellectual. Bryan might be figuring out that at Washington State University he can start fresh, become the man he dreams of being. No one needs to know about his troubled past. Bryan turns from Ben and then makes a beeline for the group of the senior faculty members. Like a Wall Street CEO, one by one, he pumps their hand and works the room. I'm Bryan, and I'm excited to be here. Pullman, Washington, early fall of 2022. The cohort is sitting in a circle in a classroom in the Wilson Short Hall. It's the third class in the research methodology course taught by their toughest grader, a redhead French professor named Amelia Pedonalt, whose expertise is in sexually violent offenders. Bryan is in the seat next to Dr. Pedonalt on her right. He takes this seat each time because he knows it means he'll be called to present his assignment first as the professor makes her way around the circle. Bryan appears to like going first. He appears to think it gives him an advantage over all of the Beckys in the room. Becky is a term used in the manosphere, chat groups like Bryan is familiar with. Bryan knows all about incels, that is, involuntary celibates. Incels are members of a movement of frustrated men, all virgins, that sprang up on 4chan in 2014, just hours after Elliot Regered committed mass murder, then suicide, the act that Bryan studied back in Professor Ramsland's class at DeSales. The idea of the movement started in Rogers' honors is that one day the incels will succeed in their beta revolution and throw the Beckys, Stacys, and Chads who have managed to make betas feel so small and rejected. The group is increasingly associated with violence. Bryan looks around the class. These women could all be considered Beckys, defined by incels as feminists who dye their hair, post stupid opinions, and need to be the dominant ones in relationships. By contrast, Stacys are stereotypically nubile, used to male attention, prolific on social media, and date hunky rich chads. According to incel lore, Beckys need to be put in their place. After Bryan gives his presentation, the Beckys next to him start hers. He leans in closely, paying attention. As soon as she's done, he begins his offensive. He peppers her with questions that he appears to think shows how smart he is and how dumb she is. Did she think about this theory? And what about this one? And had she read that book? She's getting annoyed. He can see that. Bryan looks over at Ben as if seeking affirmation, but Ben looks away. Some of the women are visibly pissed. Bryan doesn't seem bothered by their discomfort. Elliot Rodger would have been proud. It's been a long day. Bryan is tired. He's sitting in the back row in the class of Dr. Hilary Mellinger, a recent graduate herself who teaches a course on the role of cultural issues like immigration and homelessness in criminal justice. Bryan isn't particularly interested in Dr. Mellinger's course. Incels might consider her another Becky. She is an advocate for immigrant women and girls who are fleeing men perpetrating gender-based violence by knocking them around. Incels are reportedly at the heart of rising gender-based violence. In 2018, a Canadian self-described incel, Alec Minassian, was motivated, he said, by a hatred of women to plow a van onto a crowded Toronto sidewalk, killing 11 people. He's been sentenced to prison for life, and he's become an icon in the movement. Dr. Mellinger interrupts his reverie. Bryan, she says, suddenly, and she asks him a question about immigration that he hasn't prepared for. Did he even hear it correctly? Shit, he doesn't know that one. The Beckys have turned around and are staring at him. So is Ben, who observed later. You could kind of tell that he was trying to say something, but it wouldn't come out. He couldn't find the words. Dr. Mellinger looks shocked. Ben said Bryan looked like a dog caught in a thunderstorm. If his ears could have been pinned back, they would have been pinned back. He was just stiff as a board, didn't move, didn't speak, just kind of wide-eyed. Fortunately for Bryan, this happens in the final few minutes of class. He's the last to leave the room, so no one sees his face as he heads to his car. No one can see if he's red-hot angry or red-hot ashamed. Either way, the stuttering, awkward guy, the real self he tried to leave behind in Pennsylvania, just appeared, like Jack in the Box. He knows that you can put him back, but you can't erase his discomfort and what just happened. On page 118 of his manifesto, Elliot Rodger wrote, I had nothing left to live for but revenge. I live in a college town full of young, attractive students who partied and had sex all the time, and I didn't get to experience any of it. No one invited me to any parties, and in all times I went out by myself to Isla Vista. None of the beautiful blonde girls showed any interest in having sex with me. Not one girl. These are crimes that cannot go unpunished. The more I thought about all these injustices that were dealt me, the more eager I became for revenge. It's all I had left. Months later, the people physically closest to Bryan, the members of his cohort, look for the smallest clues as to why it all went down. There will likely be a trial at which they hope to find answers, but this or something like it is what they speculate happened that time in August. Bryan goes for an evening drive. He drives and drives in the dark. He drives when he can't sleep, when he needs to clear his head, and when the nightmares and visuals snows reoccur, which they are doing now. Tap, tap. He's back in the basement and on Tapatalk, the online message board back when he was a teenager. I feel myself slipping away. It's as if the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all of the demons in my head mocking me. I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody screams. Is any of this here? Am I brain damaged? No. Why am I like this? Bryan has no one to share his hopelessness with, even if he could find the words to do it. The others don't seem to want to hang out. He knows the cohort gathered on the weekends for a beer. No one has invited him to join. Just like Elliot Rodger, who swung between two college communities, one in Santa Barbara and the other 11 miles in Isla Vista, Bryan has this other option to find a Stacy willing to date him. Moscow, Idaho, across the state border. He parks the car in town and heads to a place he's read about online, the Mad Greek. They serve vegan pizza. As soon as he walks inside, he notices the blonde waitress. With her long hair and sphinx-like blue eyes, she could definitely be marked as Stacy by the incels. She's the epitome of the woman who's turned down Elliot Rodger. Her name is Maddie, like Elliot's childhood friend Maddie, who grew into someone who ignored Rodger. Will she notice Bryan? She comes over to ask what he'd like. He knows what he'd like. Her. August 21st, 2022. It's pitch black, but anyone can see Maddie sitting at her vanity, as clear as day through the window. She has no idea who is out there in the parking lot looking, but neighbors like Lexi Patterson see her nightly routine. They know that she always takes her time putting on her face, foundation, then blush, eyeshadow, mascara, or fake lashes. Sometimes she uses a curling iron to style her long blonde hair. Anyone who didn't know Maddie's name would learn it in an instant because the letters spelling it out are there in the window. Anyone can see right into her Pink's room interior and discover the miniature of her life as cutesy girl who likes order. Even her quilt is pink. A passerby who stopped and stared would know she has a boyfriend because on weekends, he sits on the bed when Maddie and the other girls model clothes for Instagram and TikTok. She tags the boyfriend on social media. His name is Jake. Recently, the boyfriend brought Maddie cookies and a bouquet of flowers that stands in a vase on her dresser. Her mom, or at least a woman who looks exactly like Maddie, often pops in, and so does an older, graceful-looking woman, Maddie's grandmother. Anyone can see from just watching that Maddie's close to all of these family members. She's even making a little quilt for someone, a baby. Kaylee, one of her friends, often pops in from next door. These two are obviously close. They pore over their phones, comparing social media posts, taking photos and videos of each other. They're so immersed in their phones and their coziness that they never think to look farther than the sanctuary of their yard. They don't see anyone out there staring. Corporal Brett Payne of Moscow Police later alleges, based on AT&T cell phone records and the pings Bryan's cell phone made off of Moscow's cell tower, that was what Bryan did. Payne alleges that he sat there at least 12 times between August 21st and November 13th, almost always late at night, cloaked in darkness. The theory among Maddie's friends is that she rejected him. So he watched, waiting. Elliot Rodger wrote of reuniting with a childhood friend named Maddie and months before the day of the retribution. Elliot says, she was a popular, spoiled USC girl who partied with hot, popular, blonde-haired clique of friends. My hatred for them all grew from each picture I saw of her profile. They were the kind of beautiful, popular people who lived pleasurable lives and would look down on me as inferior scum, never accepting me as one of them. They were my enemies. They represented everything that was wrong with this world. Corporal Payne alleges that on the night of August 21st, Bryan was there at King Road at 10:34 p.m. and 11:35 p.m. At 11:37 p.m. at the junction of Farm Road and Pullman Highway on his way back to Pullman, Bryan is pulled over by Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Coral Duke. His car doesn't have a front plate. It's registered in Pennsylvania, where front plates aren't required. He'll need to change that in Washington and Idaho, Duke tells him. Bryan says okay. He's smooth with the officer, natural. The officer has no clue as to what Bryan is doing in Moscow. If Bryan is asked about it, which he will be, he'll deny that he was doing anything other than going out for a drive, like he always does when he's under stress. He often goes out stargazing, he'll say. The police can't see into his mind. No one can. Even though the people out here in the Pacific Northwest do try, boy, do they try. Cassie Hanziak is a WSU freshman majoring in psychology and minoring in criminology. Her largest class is the undergraduate criminal justice course with Professor John Snyder. With white hair and a mustache, Dr. Snyder is one of the most popular professors in the department. He's the reason Cassie wanted to come to Washington State University. She's excited. But as she sits attentively during Snyder's first class, Cassie encounters something off-putting. Rather, someone off-putting. The professor talks for 40 long minutes, often calling on class members in his fun, benign way. A tall, thin guy with bulging eyes stands in front of the class, facing them the entire time. He has a coffee in his hand. He fiddles with it. Cassie wonders who the heck this is and why he's staring. The way he holds himself exudes not confidence exactly, but self-importance, perhaps. Finally, Professor Snyder introduces him. This is your new TA, Bryan Kohbergers. A couple of sides of nice-looking family come onto the projector on screen. Hi, I'm Bryan, he tells the class. I'm here to continue my degree from Pennsylvania. I've got a master's in psychology. Here's my family. They look normal, Cassie thinks. Bryan tells him he'll be here with Professor Snyder regularly and he'll be grading their papers. Then he sits down. Why didn't Bryan just sit at the desk in the front row until he was introduced? Cassie wonders. Her neighbors whispers to her that the guy is weird. Cassie smirks. Cassie sees Bryan twice a week, every time she has a class with Professor Snyder. There are 2 TAs, both guys. One often has his laptop in front of him. Bryan just sits there, staring at the class, fiddling with his coffee cup. He doesn't say anything. It's strange. Where he's communicative, Cassie notices, is in his grading. She can tell he puts a lot of thought into marking her papers. He gives her A's and writes her a lot of commentary. She assumes that's because she's good at writing essays. She doesn't think she's a standout student, though. Until that is, she hears from some of her female classmates that he's not so generous with their grades. And when he thinks they've gotten something wrong, he writes pages and pages explaining why. He's tough, they say. They think it's because they're female. Walking to a class one time, a couple of classmates tell Cassie they've emailed Professor Snyder about it. Wow, Cassie thinks. That's a step. Hey, Cree. Good to see you, love. Hey, 𝐭𝐿𝐻. I'm only going to read one more chapter, and then we're going to pause until tomorrow. October 2022. The weather hovers between fall and winter. It's bitterly cold, but the first snow has yet to arrive. After class at around 5 p.m., Ben Roberts is milling around in Wilson Short Hall when he bumps into Bryan, who offers to give him a lift home. Ben hesitates. He lives only a few minutes away, but he does need a ride and he's curious. Ben wants to understand what underlies Bryan's antagonistic behavior toward the women in class. So he makes the decision. He accepts. Ben gets into Bryan's white Hyundai Elantra. Bryan keeps the car's interior clean and tidy, he notices. The conversation begins straightforwardly enough, at least in Ben's mind. They talk about some of the negative impacts of social media. Ben says he believes that social media encourages people to stay within bubbles of like-minded people. Dating app searches, for example, Ben points out, are designated algorithmically to keep men and women in certain groups. Bryan gets personal. Are you seeing anyone? He asks. No, says Ben, and I'm fine with that. Ben doesn't add something he doesn't think Bryan knows, and that is none of his business anyways. He's not straight. He wants to change the topic, but Bryan wants to talk about women, what he thinks of them. He tells Ben that he believes in traditional gender roles, the implication being that their family colleagues are wasting their time in class and have no business pursuing master's degrees. Essentially, Bryan believes that men should make money and women should be homemakers. Ben thinks the sentiment is tasteless as well as anachronistic and odd for someone who's chosen to attend WSU, a progressive academic community where women outnumber men on the faculty. The department's head is a woman, Dr. Melanie Angela Newley, who is interested in feminine theories, no less, in researching comparative homicides, specifically violent homicides. She also has a wider interest in criminology theories, including feminist theorizations of crime. But Ben is even more horrified by what Bryan says next. I can walk into any social gathering and get any girl I want. It's an extraordinary thing to say, and in Ben's mind, it puts Bryan at a creep level. And that's not just because Ben doubts, given Bryan's weird physical appearance, that there's any truth to the boast. Ben doesn't rate himself highly as a specimen of physical attractiveness, but this guy, he looks more like Gollum than George Clooney, Ben thinks. He doesn't know that Bryan, in fact, has seen a girl he wants and cannot get, a beautiful girl with long blonde hair and blue eyes. Bryan continues talking, seemingly looking for a sign of agreement from Ben. When they arrive at Ben's place, he gets out of the car hoping they're done. They're not. Bryan asked to use his bathroom. He lingers in Ben's tiny sardine can studio apartment until 7:45 p.m. Both men remain standing for the conversation, because Ben has only 2 chairs and one of them is piled high with stuff. Ben does not consider these hours well spent. As for Bryan, he probably realized Ben wasn't the kindred spirit he hoped he was. September 23rd, 2022. The way the cohort hears it, this is what goes down in Professor Snyder's class. Dr. Snyder calls Bryan in to talk about the complaints. Women have emailed him saying the TA is grading the female students unfairly, and some of the cohorts say his interruptions in class are misogynistic. Professor Snyder informs Bryan of what's being said and suggests he change his ways. Stop interrupting the women, he tells the strange young man, or at least say something along those lines. They're complaining. Stop writing them essays on their essays. It's offensive. Be generous and brief. A rumor goes around that Snyder makes the point that the undergraduates cannot be expected to have the same level of knowledge as Bryan. Snyder's trying to be helpful, but apparently, or so they hear later, none of them was in the room, obviously. Bryan's anger spills out of him. Fuck it. No more point pretending. Something sends him out of control. They deserve what they get, he says. The professor sees that Bryan might be smart, but his Achilles heel is a big ego and a high opinion of himself. And there's something deeper that sets Bryan off, something ugly. Professor Snyder thinks he hears Bryan mutter. They don't belong in the classroom, but he can't be sure. So in his report on the altercation to the higher-ups on the faculty, he focuses on what he cannot ignore, the young man's anger. A week or so later, on October 3rd, Department Chair Melanie Angela Newley and Graduate Director Del Willis call Bryan in to discuss his lack of norms of professional behavior. Professor Wiltis is there as a witness, so there's a record of what happened in the meeting, which it turns out will be needed. Bryan listens, but he doesn't hear them. He's angry, defiant. He says he wants to meet his critics head on, have a discussion in class, explain his grading. He graded his students poorly because they didn't know the topic well. After he leaves, the faculty members are concerned. There's no way Bryan's discussion with his students is likely to go the way he thinks it will. November 2022. Ben Roberts is still in shock about the delusional self-regard Bryan expressed in the conversation that revealed his offensive, anachronistic views of gender roles, but increasingly, Bryan's appearance becomes even more startling. Ben assumes that Bryan is as stressed as they are all with finals looming. The workload is almost intolerable, and none of the student appears to be in perfect health. In class, Bryan looks positively ill, like he's physically deteriorating. He looks like the Walking Dead, Ben said later. I mean, we're talking his eyes are just completely dark most of the time. He looked gone. This wasn't just a sleep deprivation. It was more serious, ongoing. He heard the rumors that Bryan got reprimanded by Professor Snyder, but Bryan doesn't offer any information. Ben goes to WSU's Student Care Network and fills out a form indicating his concern. He wants to send it to the administration. The school's website states that these reports can be made anonymously. But before pressing submit, Ben looks for the anonymous reporting function. He can't see that his anonymity will be protected for sure. Ben wants to help his exhausted classmate, but he doesn't want Bryan searching out and finding the person who submitted the form. He doesn't want this coming back to him. There's something about this guy that is just too weird. So Ben deletes what he's typed, never imagining the act of pushing the backspace button on his keyboard will come to haunt him. One more chapter. Bryan, October 14th, 2022. Bryan is driving his white 2015 Hyundai Elantra when he hears a siren. Damn, again. He pulls over and sits there as a WSU police officer, Isabel Luengas, gets out of her cruiser and approaches him. Bryan rolls down the window, looking as calm as possible, even though his heart is racing. Hello, officer. Officer Luenga politely greets Bryan. Wearing a body camera, she starts by telling him that the stop is being audio and video recorded. Then she says, I think you know why I stopped you. You ran the red light. What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection, Bryan answers, so I was forced to turn left. Yeah, I was behind you the whole time, Luenga says a little skeptically. She explains that she watched Bryan enter the intersection illegally. She asks for his license, registration, and insurance. Bryan hands him over. He's cooperative. He apologizes profusely. Luenga seems receptive, so Bryan plows on, getting in deep. All that practice being verbal in class is paying off. He tells the cop that he's from a rural part of Pennsylvania, as the vehicle registration shows, and when it comes to pulling into an intersection like he just did, it never occurred to me that was actually something wrong. Back home, you could drive like that without impunity. His performance works. He gets away with it, just like he did back in August. The officer lets him go with a warning. For Bryan, it's likely an over-empowering moment. Back at DeSales and Professor Ramslin's climb, he learned about a month before the day of retribution, Elliot Roderick was paid a visit by police officers. They left with no clue that he was planning a mass murder. It's possible that Bryan, too, can get away with anything he wants. fall 2022, Pullman, Washington. So she asked Bryan, her neighbor, to install a home surveillance system. She noticed that her home in the Steptoe Village apartments has been broken into and various items were moved around. Bryan is always floating around the place. It's where a lot of the graduate students live, and they've finally gotten friendly. And she knows he's into tech because he's always talking about how good he is with computers. She can see him on his computer at his window late into the night. So instead of going to the police, she goes to Bryan, who agrees to help place cameras around her home. He cannot be more helpful, and the new cameras work really well. She's grateful until she looks at the camera and at what she can see from her phone. There's been a rumor that Bryan followed a woman student to her car. The technology is smart but so simple. Anyone with the password can log in and see inside her apartment. Anyone, but there's only one person other than her who knows the password: Bryan. Her mind races. He seemed off lately, strange. He asked her to go out for coffee and seemed mad when she said no. Really mad. She changes her password. She has no idea that just 2 months after this, her brief encounters with Bryan will become a newspaper story that goes viral. She has no idea that she will need to shield her identity, hide from the media and the public. No idea that her experience will make her a potential witness in a murder trial. That Chief Jenkins will say that investigators believe there was likely a connection between Bryan's work on her security camera and what happened at 1122 King Road. She has no idea of who the weird guy with the bulging eyes really is or what is about to happen. Yo. Oh wait, there's one more page before we get to the next part. I'm going to read it. November 2nd, 2022. Less than a month after their previous meetings with Bryan, so the cohort hears, Graduate Director Del Wiltis and Department Chair Melanie and Angela Newley are once again confronting Bryan about his behavior. There are no friendly suggestions this time. Doctors Wiltis and Newley tell Bryan that he already knows. Short of a miracle, he'll be fired. The cohort hears a discussion about grading had not gone well. Women had later complained to Dr. Snyder and said that Bryan had stared at them, that he'd positioned himself by the door, and they had to get uncomfortably close to him to exit the room. One suggested he followed her to her car. As if Bryan is so pissed, they'd be lucky to get close to him. He stopped showing up to teach. So 2 weeks ago, John Snyder had formally notified Bryan he had failed to meet expectations as a TA. The students assume that Professor Newley wants to give students the benefit of the doubt, and that is why she and Professor Wiltis are giving Bryan a chance. Today, Doctors Newley and Wiltis suggest an improvement plan for Bryan, a way for him to show them he can lose the misogyny and genuinely behave professionally at an institution that expects that of both students and teachers. The improvement plan, they agree, will be emailed to Bryan, and they will meet again in a month to see how it's going. Bryan listens. Bryan's career as a graduate student is over. In this room now, they just got through the motions. His bubble is bursting. His dream of a new life, a new persona, is being cut short. Professor Snyder emails the plan to him the next day. It contains words like courtesy and respect, the kind of thing he considers politically correct bullshit. So they want change. On page 118 of his manifesto, Elliot Rodger wrote that he planned to carry out his Day of Retribution scheme in November. At first, he'd planned to do it on a Halloween because he said it was the ultimate party night. Quote unquote, there would be literally thousands of people crowded together who I could kill with ease. And the goal was kill everyone in Isla Vista to utterly destroy that wretched town. But then I saw there were too many cops walking around. The Day of Retribution would have to be on a normal party weekend, so I set it for some time during November 2013. In the early hours of November 13th, 2022, police allege Bryan leaves his home in Pullman. At 2:47 a.m., his phone shows he's moving southeast of the Pullman home. 1 minute later, his phone stops reporting to the network, or any network, and doesn't come online again until 4:47 a.m. Between these times, Corporal Brett Payne alleges a masked intruder, fitting Bryan's description, enters 1122 King Road. As they were sleeping or relaxing in what they assume is the safety of their own home, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin are fatally stabbed. What no one knows is why. Okay. I'm so proud of us, you guys. This book is so good, and we literally got through 128 pages tonight. Yep. Yeah, we did. We are at this point halfway through it. So we're leaving off on part 3. I'm hooked. I want to read this. I want to finish it tonight, but I'm not. I promise you I will not. I will not do that. And you better not go and read it either. We're reading this together. So come back to, well, let me explain. I will come back and do part 2 of this reading if I don't have my guest tomorrow. I have a guest coming on Mellyverse. I'm so excited if he does come on. It's going to be the first official guest of someone who has a bigger channel than mine, of course, and who is someone important to YouTube. I am going to actually text him when I get off here to see if he's still going to be on. If he is on tomorrow, then I will see you guys for that interview, and then we will probably do a Melly After Dark. If I do not interview him due to scheduling conflicts, then I will be back to read part 2 of this. We are reading the entire book, James Patterson, the Idaho Four. We are on part 3 today. We ended there, and we'll start that. It's called part 3, the first 6 weeks. So we will continue this book. I'm hooked. I love it. It's so good. I'm so glad I got it and decided to read it with you guys. It's way funner this way. But I know you guys have said a lot of comments and I missed a lot of it because I was reading, but I'll go back and read it at the night. Yes. Is it me? Melly, you should do audiobooks. I'm thinking about it. Thomas, we already Melly's. Yay. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. What a way to end Melly reading. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Thomas. Hey, Thomas. Hey, Dink Dink. Hey, Cree. Read my mind, Melly. I said, your eyes are literally so down. Oh, thank you. Okay. You missed my comment. No, I read your comment. Yes. I'm not going to tell you guys who the guest is. It's a good one, though. I know a lot of you guys will like it. I know you guys will like the person I'm having on tomorrow. I know it in my heart because I see a lot of you guys over there. So with that being said, I am going to plan for that. I'm going to email Cree back. I have to go through my emails. I still haven't. I'm terrible. I'm sorry. But like I said, make sure you turn on the note. Do we know him? Not going to tell you anymore. You're just going to have to wait and see. Tomorrow evening, I should have a special guest. If I do, you guys will probably see the thumbnail and I'll post it probably tomorrow, like middle of the day. And if he doesn't come on, then don't worry. We'll be back to finish the book. I'm determined to get through this in like 2 parts. I mean, look how much we read tonight. Like we did pretty good, class. Like we're on page 129 and we did pretty good. There's 431. So it seems like a lot, but it's really not. We got to chapter 40 tonight. So it'll probably take like 3 parts to read this. We'll see. We'll see with the guest tomorrow. We'll see what happens. No, Cree. No. No one from over there. No one from over there. I wish. Anyhow, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. Subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you for being here. Shout out to my mod, Jules. Well, you know what, Cree? He has been over there, but he's not involved. He's not a host over there. But good guess. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Thank you for being here. Like I said, make sure you turn on notifications. I'm not sure how good YouTube is about that. So you don't want to miss it because we're going to continue reading the James Patterson Idaho 4 book. And then we will have our first guest tomorrow. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Bye.